Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, Julian Jeremiah, Tommy Swagnett, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Good afternoon, Nathan.
Hey Jorge, thank you. Forgot to turn my amps on. Thought I'd got a technical issue. I'd just forgotten to turn something on. We hustling Kevin to say hello. That's what first thing I heard when my amps clicked on.
He's not muted, right, Steve?
Probably. I've only just got here. Yeah, he is. Yes, he was. Hey, Kevin. Can you hear us?
Yeah. How you doing, Nathan?
Very well, very well. There you go, guys. Now you can talk to him. My bad. I've only just got here.
Thanks for the welcome. Appreciate it.
No worries. I'm doing stuff at the minute, so just ignore me. But they all wanted to talk to you, and I don't know, I've only just got here, so I don't know what's going on.
So, Kevin B, what's up, bro? You a
Hey, just getting ready to... No, I definitely not a Glober.
Not a Glober.
No, that nonsense left me a long time ago.
Good for you.
Oh, you got a good name. I like that name, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks. I'm of unlike Nathan, who has several different ethnicities. I'm mostly Italian, so I got an Irish name, which totally makes sense. And Brian's logic would probably love that.
Irish and Italian.
Of course you are. Well, aren't you a sliver black as well, Nathan? Did I hear that somewhere?
More than a sliver, I'll have you know.
I'm also mostly Italian, and my name is Kevin from the Irish side.
Funny.
Well done. You know the rules.
That's the truth.
Only one Irish guest at a time. We don't want chaos.
I'm mostly Italian, so it's all good.
Yeah, mostly Italian. I have no Irish. My dad just didn't want me to have an Italian name because he got picked on when he came here from Italy, which is kind of weird because I'm not sure the Irish were picked on any less. But
from the history we're told, it seems like they were picked on more.
That's for sure.
Your entire country was founded on immigration, and yet you're all at each other's throats. Amazing.
Imagine that, right?
You know.
I think Neil may also be Italian. I'm not sure. Something gives me that feeling.
I thought he was German. Is he not German?
I don't know. I'm thinking Neil's Italian. It's my guess, anyway. I could be wrong.
I think you're wrong.
Yeah, I think Neil's Italian too.
Was it you I heard on 24/7 Discord harp this morning?
You talking to me? No, I was going 24/7.
Someone was having it out with a globe believer about Coriolis deflection. Did you, Stag? It was somebody that comes here regularly. I just can't remember who it was. I'll have to go back and have a look. As I listened to the discussion, it doesn't really matter who's in the discussion. What I noticed was the repositioning of where the claim is being observed from took place 2, 3, 4 times. So I'm going to do this in the live show when we come to ask for axial rotation, but I'm going to go through it and try and make it as clear as possible. It's not a clear subject, so arguing about it, the main debating points were being won by the flat earth side, but there was just, like I say, one integral detail that kept getting stepped over or not recognised, which is to say that Coriolis effect is only observable from the turning reference frame. So if you're describing Coriolis effect, it's got to be described from a roundabout. That would be you seeing something seem to happen from a roundabout. So in the discussion, there was a constant switch from what's happening in terms of what you observe, that's Coriolis effect, from the roundabout, and what the plane, bullet, hot air balloon, what they're doing. Now, the projectiles got a description in Coriolis because it's got a trajectory, but what's being described by the effect isn't that trajectory, it's the apparent trajectory that you see happen. So, in Coriolis effect, your drone takes off a roundabout and just hovers. So for the sake of simplicity, it's not going anywhere, it's just hovering. But from your vantage point, looking at it, experiencing Coriolis, it looks like it's coming towards you and going away, coming towards you, going away. That not actual path that the drone takes is the description of Coriolis. And that will only ever be described from the roundabout in that example. Now in the discussion, it's constantly, well, on the drone, well, if I've got somebody inside the drone or inside the aeroplane, or I've got a camera on the drone or in the drone, that's how it constantly seemed to move in terms of, well, what are you going to describe then? What about if the bullet's moving across a very long area over a very significantly extended period of time? What about the deflection it takes then? It's like, well, it doesn't. You know, this description of what the bullet's going to do is kind of irrelevant. Yes, it may have a trajectory, but what's going to be described in Coriolis effect is the curved path you appear to have presented with you when you watch it from a turning reference frame. And every single time that, at least for me, when my opponent says, well, if you stick a camera on the drone, then my answer is you're not describing Coriolis anymore then. You know, at which point they've got to try and say, well, I'm not trying to describe Coriolis. You're the one describing Coriolis. No, I'm not. I'm detailing what your claim is on the globe Earth with Coriolis, which will only ever be described from the ground. Never from the plane, never from the helicopter, never from the hot air balloon. Always from the ground. What appears to happen to the balloon, what appears to happen to the bullet, what appears to happen to the drone, what appears to happen to the gyroscope, what appears to happen to the pendulum, and what they claim appears to happen to the sun and celestial bodies above our heads. So that is an apparent motion caused by you turning beneath it according to all of those as claimed on the sphere. Now in reality, you only ever see this effect if you're on a spinning surface, which globe Earth is not. We don't have a globe Earth. We're definitely not spinning, or we'd observe the effect they claim we see. And we would see the effect they claim we would see. That is to say, it's not going to be described from a guy on the drone, or a guy on the hot air balloon, or a guy on the plane, or from the bullet's perspective, ever. It's just you looking at something travel through the air if it's got a direction of travel, and seeming to do something it isn't, seeming to curve when it isn't, because you're turning beneath it. So, the effect's never going to be detailed from the inertial reference frame. That is from the bullet's perspective, from the drone's perspective, from the hot air balloon's perspective, from the plane's perspective, from the gyro compass's perspective, from the pendulum's perspective. None of these things are ever applicable to Coriolis deflection, because that deflection is something that can only be described from your eyes on the ground spinning beneath things. That's it.
Hey, Nathan,
You're
good
gonna
morning.
need
Yeah, that
R
wasn't me.
anyway.
I wouldn't fall for that trick.
No, I just it was a regular panel member and I couldn't remember who it was. I'll go back and I'll look after the fact and see who it was, so I can just say to them, you know, you're doing a really good job because you're winning. So don't take this as a criticism, because every point that's being brought up, regardless of which frame of reference it's being described from, when it's changed by the Fundy Globe believer, you're still winning the point. So it's not a criticism. More power to you. You know all of the arguments. But it must be stressed that when the changeover happens from the frame of reference that's spinning and you observing things from it to the projectile, it wasn't picked up on. It wasn't pointed out. Why are we describing this projectile now? Why are we describing how the motion of the projectile is in any way even capable of being described when you're talking about a not actual deflection? An illusion of a deflection, the only motion being the claim that we're turning underneath stuff on a globe Earth, or you actually turning underneath stuff if you're on a roundabout.
So I've been told that they call that relative motion when you're talking about that roundabout. So I'm just looking up this. I did this before, but so the Coriolis effect has like two different definitions. The deflection of an object due to the Coriolis force is called the Coriolis effect. Though recognized previously by others, the mathematical expression for the Coriolis force appeared in an 1835 paper by French scientist Gaspard Gustave de Coriolis in connection with the theory of water wheels. Now then when you go over and look at Coriolis force, it says in physics the Coriolis force is an inertial or fictitious force that acts on objects that are in motion within a frame of reference that rotates with respect to an inertial frame. See, so they're saying that this has to be in motion. So hovering anything over a roundabout or whatever, they call that relative motion.
Well, the relative motion is, as they're described accurately, everything so far is correct in terms of the way it's been described. So the relative motion, I described 2 or 3 days ago on a guy on a crane. I don't know if you were around when I gave that description. Well, the crane operator moves the stick and starts to spin on an axis on the crane. And as he does so, he looks out the window, forgetting that it's him making the crane move with his little stick. And he goes, oh my God, there's a building coming towards me. The building's coming to get me. And oh my God, bang, he hits the building. Yeah? Well, that's the Coriolis force in action. It was an apparent force that moved the building towards him. It wasn't actually moving towards him, it was completely stationary. But the net effect of what he observed and what he put in the accident report was the building came to get me. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I hit it because it was coming towards me. When in reality, he rotated about his axis, went too far and hit the building behind him. Well, that is not an actual force, but it is most definitely the Coriolis force when you describe the building coming towards you, if you're the crane operator. Because it's his description of a not actual force. How did they describe it? A fictitious force. That fictitious force moved the building. What you're not going to be describing is the force of the crane in a not actual terminology if you're watching the crane come to you and you're in one of those high-rise buildings standing in the window watching a crane come towards you. Right? That's an actual rotation of the crane towards your position. The actual force of the crane destroyed the building. When you look at it from that vantage point in the inertial reference frame. So from the inertial reference frame, if you're going to describe Coriolis and say, well, let's now move this to our eyeballs where we're not experiencing the effect, well, then there is no Coriolis effect anymore because it was a not actual deflection. All you've got is the actual effect of the crane swinging towards the building. And in translation to Coriolis deflection from a roundabout, you could have a limb of a tree hanging over the roundabout. And you sit on the roundabout, close your eyes, don't realise that someone spins the roundabout. You open your eyes, oh my God, the tree's coming to get me. Bang! You hit the tree. Well, that was the tree coming towards you as you just didn't do anything. You weren't moving, you weren't running towards it. You were just, as far as you were concerned, non-inertial. Not moving. From your vantage point, you're sat perfectly still, not doing anything, but yet the tree's still coming towards you with an inertial force. No, you're the one with the inertial actual force. But in terms of the description of the tree branch coming towards you, it's a description of a fictitious force that brings the tree towards you.
I'm trying to get a symbol out here to define relative motion. Because him and Puppy both tell me it's different from Coriolis. I'd like to hear them tell you that I've never heard that conversation. I've never heard them say to you that's relative motion. But when I asked them the question of the roundabout, that's what I got, relative motion.
You can describe it in that way, but it is actually defined as the Coriolis effect. If you want to say the relative motion, the relative motion.
That's what I thought. Because I looked. I'm sorry, because I did. I looked it up, and I'm thinking, wait, this is just another way to say Coriolis. But by not saying it, they're just
they don't want to say it. They don't want to say it because they haven't got it. They don't have Earth-based Coriolis effect to show you, so they don't want to say it. And when you detail what is actually Coriolis effect, they want to segue away from the claim the globe has, which is Coriolis effect, and say that's just relative motion. Yet the motion of the tree relative to you spinning. But from your vantage point, non-inertial, not moving, it looks like the tree comes towards you. It's just its relative motion to your spin direction. Yeah, that would be Coriolis deflection if you're describing the tree coming to get you, and not actual force of a tree coming towards you. You spinning towards it, but because you're not moving, you're non-inertial. To have the effect, the force of the tree described, you must be in a non-inertial frame of reference. That is to say, from your point of view, you're not the one moving. Hence the term non-inertial reference frame, even though it's spinning. That makes no sense, right? It's spinning. No, because the effect that's going to be described is described as you don't move. You're just sitting there, not doing a thing, and suddenly a tree's coming towards you. That's the force when describing Coriolis. The force of the tree coming to get you. An illusion of a tree coming to get you. Because you're actually, not that you're going to recognise this when you describe the tree coming to you, you're actually rotating towards it. Now that is the claim, that's Coriolis. So therefore, drone takes off and we should rotate towards it on a spinning Earth. That's it, that's the claim. We don't. That doesn't happen. Doesn't happen on Earth because we're not spinning. If we were, it would. It isn't. It's also a claim that should happen because they say it should happen. They tell us we should see Coriolis deflection. We don't. So then they get into segueing away from Coriolis and telling us that we're the ones claiming it. Last guy that's going to get published tonight from final section of that guy who wanted Bitcoin is exactly that. At one stage, he says, I'm not claiming Coriolis. You are. That's what he tells me. Because I've detailed what the globe claims. So therefore, because they can't show it and it doesn't happen, they have to make it our claim. And pull apart how we claim Coriolis deflection should occur on a globe Earth. No, we're not claiming that, we're debunking it. But if they can make it our claim, they can then argue amongst themselves about the begging the question assumption of Earth turning with anything they describe, and the not effect that they're supposed to have on the globe, which is Coriolis. They'll say, no, I'm not claiming that. You are. Flat earther. Why would I be claiming Coriolis? I don't claim Earth spins, but they need me to because it doesn't actually happen. So they can defend it not happening as though I'm claiming it.
Hello, Nathan.
Hey, Arwin.
Can you
Why
hear
weren't you
me?
live? Missed your show today. Bit upset.
Yeah, we're missing your show.
Oh, yeah, it's 2 minutes past. too into talking about Coriolis deflection.
No, I'm
He's-
talking about a panel link. Where's the panel link?
Send the link.
Oh, I've not sent the panel link out. Oh, I
I know
posted
you
it.
haven't.
Okay, I pasted it.
Oh,
It's
on the
all right.
Discord.
It's all right. I pasted it. I just didn't send it. There we go. Done. It's in Ballbusters and Master B. Oh, I better not go live because otherwise I'm going to get half a dozen people trying to pile into the hangout while I do. Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, ding dongs. Right, let's get them all out of the way. We're going to be slightly late live. I blame Arwin.
We thought you were going to
course you
skip
thought.
out on today's show.
No, not at all. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Arwin, Neil, 10th Man, John, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello. Good
Morning.
afternoon.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good morning. We're going to go through the housekeeping, but I'm going to take it upon myself to pause when we get to the axial rotation question, mainly because of a conversation I was listening to just before the show started, or maybe an hour or two before the show started, on Flat Earth 24/7 Discord. But we'll go through the housekeeping anyway, so I'll leave axial rotation to last. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
It exists in the math.
Black Swan.
Right on.
The question is any evidence. Existing in the math is not evidence.
I'll assume everyone's off muting Discord as Righteous Forces in there. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Well, I don't know if anybody saw, shout out to Bev, Try Thinking, but I watched a 4-hour marathon a couple nights ago, and there was a baller in there that I think was attempting to straw man that question, Nathan, on using trigonometry and the sextant and using a right angle and then the angle to the sun in two different spots, claiming that the sun was 3,000 kilometers in one location and a little over 2,000 kilometers in another. Not sure quite what he was getting at, but glad to see the Globers aren't claiming 93 million miles anymore.
Well, if they're going to do that triangulation to get a height to then insert R and extend the distance out to 93 million miles, they're going to follow the same process. And check out Red's Rhetoric video if you want to see how they do it, or Smokescreen Design's debunking of it, where he just points out that they do this and then just insert R to give you the distance. Well, they're going to need R for that first and foremost, but where do they get a straight line to perform triangulation on a sphere?
Oh, yeah. Well, the claim was he was doing it on a flat Earth.
Why?
I think to straw man it, because the claim was you have different heights, different elevations to the sun in two different locations at the same time, claimed at the same time of year, same time of day. And therefore that can't be. The sun has to be at the same elevation in both locations. So therefore the flat Earth can't be proven.
Why does it have to be in the same height at those two different locations?
That was a really good question. Yeah. I don't think anybody was challenging him brought that up, but
just one second.
Yeah, that would have been
just one more thing. Just one more thing. Did he actually show this triangulation being done, or was it just an assertion that he made?
Well, he showed it in Muppet Vision, and then made a claim that.
Hold on.
He was
no, not a claim that has been made. Did anybody actually do this triangulation with the sun at any stage?
He claimed that he did using a sextant.
Did he have
two different? Hold on. I said hold on just 1 second. He said he had two different locations. How could he be in two different places at once? I don't follow.
Well, he was at his hometown, he claimed, for one, and then he took a vacation to Rome, I guess, and at the same time of year, and the same time of day, and took a reading with the sextant there as well.
This is a year apart.
It was a bizarre claim.
It is a bizarre claim.
Yeah, bizarre claim.
But it was not being held up in terms of how this would be done on a sphere to prove a sphere. It was being done as a straw man in terms of how he says it can't work on a flat Earth because he's claiming that there's two different altitudes to the sun as a physical object when measured at these two different locations using a tool that can only work on a flat surface anyway.
Exactly.
I see.
Sounds like a lot like Eratosthenes.
Yeah, he'll need R. He assumed a sphere.
Yeah. Second, since you were on the show, did he give any indication that the sunlight was coming in parallel or divergent?
No, that didn't come up at all. The sun was just the sun to this person, I guess.
Yeah, well, the angle of the sun changes, as we know, because it moves over our flat plane. So you're going to have a different angle from different locations, obviously. But their model says the sun ray comes in parallel, so they got a problem because it's divergent.
Yeah, and then why is he using angles in relation to the horizon? He should know that's not geometric. Like, what is he using to measure it against?
He can, because he's saying he's doing it on a flat plane and taking geometric measurements. So he's affirming that this tool can only work on a flat Earth in his straw man that he builds up in terms of the distance to the sun. But to take the measurement, he's got to assume a flat plane, and it all works out, and he's done his triangulation. Any more on this? If not, we'll move on. Go on, whoever that was.
I was just about to say that's just incoherent. I don't even see how you can even make that into a claim for the globe. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
He's saying, John, he's saying, if I'm getting it right, that on the flat plane, when you shoot the sun from his hometown, wait 1 year, go to Rome, obviously some distance away from his hometown, much like Cyan and Alexandria, like Eratosthenes, and he shoots the sun on the same day, but a following year. Number one, this takes great planning. I'd like to know if he ever did it. But assuming he did, what does that prove? That the sun is at a different angle to Rome than it is to his town because of where it is in the sky? I don't get it.
Did he say it's a different height? So it would be at a different height because it's a different place.
No, he's in a different place with a different angle. That's what he's not realizing.
But you've hit the nail on the head. What does it prove? Okay, so you're saying that if you measure the sun on a flat plane, it's very difficult to triangulate with a not actual object that's moving. We don't know what it is. Yeah, that we would all concede to. So saying I can't triangulate with the sun and get an accurate distance to it. Yeah, I'd agree. Wowee, what does that prove?
Yeah, that's my point. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've, like, as far as a claim to debunk flat Earth, that might be the dumbest claim I've ever heard.
Unless there's someone on the panel saying that it's 3,000 kilometres above the red or something, or wherever they claim on a flat Earth when they're using some nonsense from whoever they've got it from.
Well, you don't even have to say that. What he's doing is for example, let's say you're just at the seashore there where you live in England somewhere, and you shoot the sun when it's rising from the east, let's say 20 degrees in the sky. And then you wait till it's 20 degrees just before it sets. It's going to be a different place because it's moving in relationship to you on the flat plane using the horizon. What does that prove?
So he saw the star from the seashore?
You see the sun, you get an angle to it, say 20 degrees above the horizon as it's daytime. And then you wait and say it's 12 noon. Now it's directly over your head somewhere.
So he didn't see a star at the seashore. He saw the sun at the seashore.
Yeah. I'm using the sun all the time here. So you see the sun, and then you see it directly overhead. What does that prove about what you live on?
Well, you've got the automatic assumption of a flat plane when you do the triangulation in the first place. So you say, what does it prove? Well, you're not proving anything. You're utilising a principle of the geometry of the surface that you're standing on in order to make the measurement in the first place. So it's not really proving it. It's utilising the flat plane, right?
Right. Well, that's my point. If he says he's using a sextant and he shoots at 20 degrees above the horizon as it's rising, and then it's 12 noon, he just proved that he's using a flat plane to get the angle.
Yeah, exactly. Very interesting. Let's move on. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
No, that's ridiculous. And good morning.
Hello, Choco.
Hey, Chocolate. And hello, Arwin. Good to have you back, by the way.
Yes. Thank you. It's good to be back.
What's up,
Well,
man?
you were missed. I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear.
I have heard. I have still listened to the show in the background, but I just chose not to get involved, even in the comments.
That's fair enough. The Will Shanter thing's long behind us now, so hopefully we won't fall out over it. Very good move
It's
by
funny,
your...
actually. Sorry.
I was just going to say, but wise move on your part. Why fall out over it if there's something that's not pertinent to the discussion so much that it needs falling out over? Just remove yourself if it's awkward or whatever. Very wise on your part, I thought.
Right, and it was also just a demonstration. I was boycotting, over personal reasons as well, and it was the season had just hit me, right? So I've been sort of half sick this last week, not really sick or the flu or anything, just a little feeble. Hey, you guys know me for years now. I pretty much have this every year. And I even talk about it every time it happens. So it kind of all came at the same time. And I needed a bit of time off. But funnily enough, actually, after the after shows were over, I've been hanging around in Discord. After the after show is done. And been having a couple of great conversations in the last few days with the Discord panelists. It was very interesting. Good conversations.
Good stuff. Any scientific evidence of gravity while you were having those conversations?
That about sums it up.
Lots of fancy words to dress it up with, to suggest there's something scientific about it, but when push comes to shove, when you really demand the actual evidence, then it's kind of abandoned. Like, yeah, there should be.
Incoherent.
But what is it?
Go ahead, whoever that was. George, I think, or Jorge, I should say.
Yeah, I was just saying it's incoherent.
What's incoherent? Gravity?
Now, what they propose instead of gravity? Ether.
Oh,
Right.
incoherent.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah. I haven't got time. I've got to be honest, Jorge. If people want to believe in incoherent dielectric and magnetism or whatever, then more power to them, right? Long may their investigation continue. Hopefully it'll prove fruitful in the end. But me, I see the bigger, wider problem as the almost entire Western world believing that they've got a force called gravity. So, you know, Bigfoot believers, same thing. You know what I mean? More power to you. Don't really care.
What? No way. There's much more chance that Bigfoot is actually based on a real thing. And gravity isn't. Like, it just isn't. It's an aberration. That's what my conclusion was out of the original gravity versus relative density debate those years ago with Tony. And I still stand behind that. It's just super suggestive. It's a handful of elements, traits that we perceive in this realm, and they've been gathered up and unified under a banner of gravity, but there is really no coherence to it. So when you really try to pin it down, it all falls apart every time.
100% agree. But the juxtaposition isn't between gravity and Bigfoot, it's between incoherent dielectric magnetism and Bigfoot. And I'm saying in both instances, more power to you.
So the answer is no. There is no scientific proof of gravity.
About any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
No, no, and no.
I do my best to come up with stuff, but I know where it'll lead.
So do they.
It would be hard to do without R for them, wouldn't it?
I'm still the most fascinated by the entire concept and the consequences suggested of the assumption of the existence of black holes and what that would do. I'm still fascinated, like how far they went with the imaginings of that and how they've been able to basically portray that in sci-fi movies and keep it pretty consistent, right? But it is pure fiction. It is absolute pure fiction, but still fascinates me.
Well, the Hobbit movies had some consistency, so they can make it up as they go too.
Yeah, but that's actually based on a real story.
Yeah, so's black holes.
It's guesswork.
Okay, as it was mentioned by John, any evidence of the R value?
Black Swan.
Black Swan.
Might as well.
I haven't done that in a while.
Well, I'll give it a quick rendition. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon, that would be the physical geometric sphere edge Earth curve horizon, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as per the Earth curve mathematics. The distance to the horizon in the Black Swan is beyond the geometric limitations of a sphere, radius 3959. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not Earth curve.
But isn't in pseudo-Riemannian force space? Aren't straight lines in pseudo-Riemannian force space, aren't they circles? Isn't a flat plane in pseudo-Riemannian force space actually a sphere, mathematically?
Straight line's a geodesic bent line, yeah, but that's in fourth dimensional space-time that doesn't exist. It only exists in maths. So how bent lines can be geodesics is irrelevant in reality. Fascinating though it may be in mathematics.
And confusing.
Somebody asked something from Discord just before you said that. Do you want to repeat it, whoever it was? Truth Seeker, go ahead.
No, I was trying to play the Baldwin role, but what about refraction though?
Their refraction requires an R value. So when a baller says refraction, They don't need to overtly state that they're begging the question, because they will at some stage mention the atmosphere. That would be the sphere-shaped air that we don't have. There is no such thing as sphere-shaped air. Air, gases, take the shape of their container. So the automatic assumption that air is in a sphere shape around an automatically assumed to be spherical Earth is an assumption that violates several natural laws. So no, we don't have air that's sphere-shaped, and their atmospheric refraction, otherwise known as terrestrial refraction, also described as standard refraction, is based on an R value. And that R value must be derived by a geometric measurement, and if they're claiming it's refracted, it leaves them paradoxically without a straight line to acquire the R value. They're claiming refracts the very horizon they measure the R value with to a different location, with an R value they can't acquire. Hence paradoxical. Arwinian paradox, that got labelled.
I don't find the math fascinating. I find it very deceiving.
Well, math can be as helpful or deceiving as it is designed to be.
It's describing. It's just descriptions. Maths is just a language. It's an attempt to describe the heavens, which I see as pathetic. Now I look back on it. What are they describing? Trying to describe heaven with their maths.
But this kind of math divides us.
This guy. I missed you, man.
How you doing, Chaco?
Yeah, brother.
So, any
Coffee
evidence?
was boycotting too?
Let's just get through housekeeping. We're nearly there.
No.
Last question. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Oh no, there is one other question. We'll cover that as well.
What axis?
No.
I don't know if I'm going to repeat
You're
myself.
going to need R for that.
You are going to need R for that, but in terms of Coriolis deflection, which is the globe claim, I want to make it clear to anybody arguing that the moment your opponent on the globe side suggests a trajectory description, you're in a position where you are then violating what Coriolis is, because it can only be described from a turning reference frame as you view things as you turn.
In other words, it's the okie doke. You're automatically talking about the projectile and not where you're observing the supposed Coriolis force from, which is the non-inertial spinning reference frame, aka the supposed globe Earth.
Right.
Too
Coriolis
bad, so
effect.
sad.
Sorry. Coriolis effect is actually the glober's worst enemy. They're just not willing to recognize it, because it's the physical, real-world consequences of actual motion in relation to non-motion. And yeah, guess what? Their spinning ball has this rotatory motion, and it has consequences, and they don't want to know it.
And when
I agree with all. I always said they never thought it through.
Well, when you combine the sun and Coriolis, they're really dead. Because what the sun is their Earth-based Coriolis if they want to go there. But then you'll say, fine, that's in the initial reference frame. So what about a hot air balloon, airplane? Uh-oh.
Imagine having to defend something that's claimed by your side that absolutely must be apparent, aka actually be seen, and it's never seen.
Well, by the
But then you
fact,
can go on a roundabout and do it.
by the fact that the sun is moving over us and not the Earth is what they demonstrate at the end with that flawed argument. Because if the Earth was spinning, then not only the sun would validate it, but airplanes and hot air balloons and everything else would. Since they don't, we know the Earth is not spinning, and it's the sun that's moving.
Right, and the way it would validate it is from your position on the ground, watching any of those items, you'd see them take a apparent curved path because you're claimed to be spinning underneath them. It's the only way to observe the Coriolis deflection. It cannot be described any other way. It's the apparent motion that you observe as you turn beneath stuff. So if there is no deflection, that would be no apparent curved path in aeroplanes, hot air balloons, drones, or anything else that isn't attached to a spinning reference frame as claimed by the globe, then there's no effect to see. There's no Coriolis effect to observe. Now, that's what we point out daily, and the response we get from anti-flat earthers is, you're claiming Coriolis effect then. No, we're not. No, you are. We're ripping it to shreds by pointing out we don't observe that effect. We're not observing anything drift away from us. That doesn't happen. So they launch into defending why it doesn't happen. Well, the claim proof we spin is that it does happen. So their defense of why it doesn't happen always starts with the projectile's motion. So they'll start detailing why the plane isn't deflecting and how it's got engines and is travelling in this way or that way or across these, that, the other latitude lines. Makes no difference because the effect can only be described as you observing it from the ground. That's what Coriolis is. So for Earth to have this effect, you've got to be on the ground spinning beneath things. We're not on the ground spinning beneath things, as the claim the globe makes states. So we're not seeing the effect, we're not turning beneath things, and if we were, we'd see that, because that's what it's described as being as the effect. Us seeing things drift because we're turning beneath them. So we better see things drifting because we're turning beneath them then, if we're on a turning Earth. Oh, we don't ever see that. No, we don't. That's the bottom line. We don't see the effect the globe claims. And all the defence will ever be is about the projectile and how it's doing something, when the effect can only be described from your eyeballs as you turn beneath.
You and your reference frames are ruined.
Perfect example. So I point out how there's no deflection on Earth, nothing's turning underneath, we're not observing things drift away 1,000 miles on the equator, and Simon Dan reverses that into you, Nathan, he's referring to me, and your, Nathan's, reference frames have been ruined. It's like, what are you talking about? You showing something not drift is you showing how we don't have the drift that the globe claims we will, but he's reversed that onto me like I've claimed we should have drift, when I point out that the globe claims we should have drift, but we don't. So he has to attack me and my claim that we should have drift? No, that's not my claim. I'm showing how we don't have it. The globe claims we do. You then come back at me with, the globe doesn't claim we're supposed to drift. That's your claim, a flat earth claim. Coriolis is a flat earth claim and I've debunked it. What a complete drongo. I mean, Simon Dan, if you're listening to this, everyone on this panel considers you thick as shit, just so you know.
And he's still holding on to that statement, isn't he? He still is holding on to it now.
How are you supposed to defend it? What reference frames, Dan? You want to lay out what reference frames I claim on a flat earth for anything? Are you not going to find a claim that you're going to have a necessity to debunk? My reference frames are ruined? I didn't have any. So let's look at who does. Oh, you do. So when you tell me that my reference frames are ruined and I don't have any, and the only one that does is you, that's self-defeating idiocy. From a moron. That'd be you, Simon Dan, a moron.
Their defense is mathematical because the effect that they're trying to claim these days is mathematical. They're trying to move away from what the Coriolis effect actually is. That's why they always start detailing the projectile or the airplane or whatever, because they need to mathematically defend a mathematical effect, but they don't have a real world effect.
Well, what they're really trying to do is redefine physics and natural consequences of motion. So they are basically left with, oh, spinning ball in outer space. Okay, there is Coriolis effect. It was described very early on in the, like even in the 60s, descriptory videos and all that. It was like, yeah, Coriolis effect. It's right there. It's described. It's recognized. Now, all these years later, these decades later, these people that are fans of it, they're starting to realize that's not good. That claim is not good, because as soon as you try to explore the claim, it proves it's not there. So they're trying to redefine natural consequences of things. And of course, they're trying it with the gas pressure without a container as well, and many other things. They're redefining physics through their own religious beliefs. They're trying it anyway.
I think they're trying to redefine math into physics.
Indeed, they're trying to turn mathematical equations like pseudo-force-based time bending into something that we observe in the sky. In other words, inventing a fourth dimension to describe the heavens with. That's pathetic. I've already said it. But Arwen segued beautifully onto gas pressure. So any evidence that you can have said gas pressure, which we are all breathing, without a container.
Well, the fallback
You mean
word
pressurized
is
gas?
gravity. Sorry.
Oh, Jorge.
I'm just quoting Kat. You mean pressurized gas without a container?
Yeah. Yeah, how can we have pressurized gas without a container? Yeah, if you like.
No, you cannot have.
But funny how he fixed that question, right? But he never actually gave the response to the question he then fixed. Funny enough.
Right, it's just a semantical correction, not actually an addressal.
Arwen used a good word, redefine, because now on this question, they have to make up stuff, just like on the previous question with Coriolis. If you have a false model, if you live on something that's not real, you have to redefine terms. There is no Coriolis, there is no gas pressure without containment. So they're the ones coming across with the redefinition of what it is, and they're sounding so silly these days.
Well, no,
because
they're
they
actually
don't have like a century of actual physics-based experimentation to back those claims up. It's basically science fiction. That's what they're doing.
But
I think it's missing the second part, which is how can you have gas pressure without a container next to a vacuum?
Yeah, but what you're missing, I think, is we're dealing with fundamentalist maniacs. So when they state that that is possible, they're stating, yes, that is possible on the globe model. They always add in that. Eventually, that comes in. Yes, that is possible on the globe model. So they are living within a model. So when they say, yes, you can have gas pressure without a container, gravity does all that, and it all happens within the globe model. They're speaking about their belief system that they're lost in, and I don't think will ever leave.
However, that's not the case. So gas isn't being held here by gravity 9.8 meters per second down. That's not happening with gas. So even
but they're not talking about reality, Nathan.
No, I mean, but my point is, Brian, they're not talking about their model either. So when they say, well, it's possible within the globe model, no, it isn't. You have an assumption of atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, that just hangs around in a sphere shape. In other words, the assumption is that, well, we've automatically got air in a sphere around our sphere-shaped Earth assumption. So they don't need to justify the gas pressure without a container bit because they're already assuming atmosphere.
Yeah,
that's why they...
Sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, it's very simple, right? They got photographs from space looking at the ball with all the black surrounding it, which must be a vacuum, and they're breathing. So the Earth must be a ball with an atmosphere, and it must be contained somehow, even though there's no walls containing it. So they just say, well, let's just do gravity. Nobody really knows what it is anyway, so it should probably be able to do it.
Yeah, that'll do. That'll be a good enough band-aid. It worked every other time. Let's just say gravity. Gravity's the container. They literally say gravity is the container. It's like gravity isn't a container. It's not even a force. But you're going to tell me it's holding the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air by making gas into homogeneous layers that press down on the gas below. No, that's not gas behaviour. It certainly isn't a description in the model. You know, you've not got anything that's overcoming entropy in the heliocentric model. Far from it.
Yeah, but don't miss Brian's point.
Last night. I made a little song once, and the perfect time to go that it was the remix of that song Tragedy. It's like every time there's a tragedy in the globe, it's gravity. When your globe is there and you need that air, it's gravity. When it should be doing this, it's not doing that, it's gravity. Everything's always gravity, like it's their scapegoat.
Hey, Tommy, that's why it scares the bejesus out of them.
Oh, it was funny when I dropped that one, yeah, the gravity one. Gravity.
On 24/7 last night, Matthew Learns came on and told us that gravity is a pseudo force creating a pseudo container, and he thought that was a great answer.
What the hell?
You know what created the universe for them in the Big Bang?
Container.
What pulled all the hydrogen together, all the hydrogen atoms, and made everything explode into different elements in the universe? Oh, it was gravity, wasn't it? Pulled together.
Sounded like a good answer to me. That sounded like a pretty good answer. Just one thing. What does pseudo mean?
Pseudo.
That means
He's like
fake.
a
Not real.
Means what?
Back to Brian's
Not
point. Back to Brian's point. He made a good point. They'll even make up stuff when it goes against their model because it's their belief system.
Doesn't
Exactly.
matter. Let's demonstrate.
What they do is they state that that is all possible within the globe model. It's all explained. And then they'll show you the best they can do in reality is claim the effects of the globe model. Like, you've never seen curvature, but they can always talk about the effects of curvature, can't they?
You can't show you gravity,
about...
we can show you the effects of gravity. We can't show you the force,
Yeah.
we can show you the effects of the force. It's the same thing, double speak and tricks.
If you can only get the effects of gravity or the effects of curvature, how do you actually measure the actual thing?
You don't. We're talking about geodesics in space-time. You don't. You're talking about an effect that exists in a medium that isn't real, that only is in existence in mathematical descriptions, and then ascribed to what they say the heaven is, a second law of thermodynamics violation. But the description of what they say the heavens are only exists in maths, is a pseudo-geometry.
Which we only study the effects of.
There are no effects. Right, maths isn't a cause. When you say, well, I've got a description in mathematics, oh, right, that's fascinating. So you think you've described something accurately with your mathematical language. Yeah, further to that, it's going to cause blah, 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 blah. No, it isn't. Your description's never going to cause anything. My language might cause an effect in somebody mentally, but it's not going to. It's not going to force gas to do anything, right? Me describing something.
I was in Gem Panda server earlier, Nath, and I mentioned to someone in there about the sextant. So I brought your sextant argument up, saying that you need straight lines to measure an angle, and then all the globals are going, no, you don't. You can. I said, show me how you can measure an angle without straight lines. And he said to me that he showed me the definition of an angle, which obviously has an angle is curved. And he goes, look, I said, show me the definition of a curve of an angle. Isn't that why I asked you? I says, how do you measure an angle without straight lines? And they just wouldn't answer the question because obviously it proves back what you were saying about the section argument. I said, why don't you come on the show and argue it yourself to Nathan? Because it ain't my argument, but I think it's probably it's what's been argued at the moment. And he goes, and then Gem Panda comes in and goes, if anyone goes on that show, right, they're banned from the server for a week.
Oh, wow. Oh, that is beautiful. Oh, I love it. Oh, get that. So you're so terrified of me that you're willing to ban your little minions from your own server if they come here? Oh, that is so telling. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for informing me of that.
I said, why not? I said, I says, Nathan gives you a chance to hang yourself. Basically, I was like, if you go on the show, you could, because he was going, no one gets a chance to talk, and Nathan always mutes you and talks over. Because he has done that to me in the past as well. But you will get a chance to provide your evidence if you are confident. You come in there, but he'll give you the chance to talk about it, so we can slam you on it. Do you know what I mean? So you do get a chance to put forward your argument. But
that's what it is right there, bro. That's what it is. He knows that if somebody comes on this show and starts trying to use their argument, it's going to be devastating for them. So he's literally banning people from coming here to make the argument. Because if he had an argument, if any of them had an argument, they'd be here, they'd be destroying us with it. He would say, go out and spread this argument all over the world. But instead, you're banned if you show up here. That that's Gem Panda being smart for a minute. That's really smart. That's really tactical.
Sounds like a cult to me, really.
It is, Arwen. Arwen. Go ahead, Arwen.
Isn't that like one of the core traits of a cult?
Yep.
To ban your cult members from getting informed.
That's right.
With others.
Defectors. And you can be shunned in a cult. It's called shunning people. Oh, you've gone against the ways of the cult. Then you will never return. You are banished. I'd just like to say at this stage that the only reason I have the open door policy I do is so I can say that I have the open door policy and that all are welcome. Now, would I dream of banning people? For the reasons that they've gone to Gems and presented our argument, and I live in fear that having it presented at Gem Panda's server might mean that my arguments fail? and therefore people will see how my argument's pathetic. Well, that's what Gem Panda's saying. Don't come and present the arguments here because they're gonna get ripped apart, and I don't want to see that happen. If you do go to that server, that would be the Flat Earth Science versus Pseudoscience server, the one we utilise for Flat Earth debate, then you will be permanently banned from the Globe Cult. Actually, the anti-Flat Earth cult. Let's say it like it actually is.
I think Tommy said it's only a week. He gets banned. Was it a week or a month, Tommy, that you get banned for if the one of them comes over here? Either way, it's a slap on the hand. It's like, don't do that, and don't go outside, and don't defect.
Yeah, either way, thank you, Tommy, for telling us that. Because that tells us exactly where they are mentally and physically in this argument. It hurts them, this argument. It's that bad. Can't talk about 90. Can't talk about straight lines. Don't go on that show. You'll get banned.
Hold on. What kind of
I disagree. The argument tells us right where we are with them.
What kind of weak-ass punk is going to let somebody talk to them like that and tell them where they can and can't go?
Minions.
That is weak.
Minions. Good soldiers. Good minions.
Yeah, contrast that to what
Jim Panda has.
Contrast that to what I say to you guys, right? You'll come back like Arwin, right? He's disappeared for a few days. Was he in any way obliged to come or go or anything? No. He's under absolutely no obligation. Same for every single person in the server. Nobody's under any obligation whatsoever to come, to stay. As for me holding some authority about where they go afterwards, what an outrage. That's our opponents though, isn't it? That's the Globe Cult for you.
That's hilarious. I didn't even know Arwen was gone because I haven't been here in a week. Like, what? Are you guys
I mean, as a grown-ass man.
It's going to reflect on you.
Just do a quick round robin.
Yeah, how dare you, Chocolate, not show up for a week?
Hold on a second, before we get into this. Hold on.
John, because he
hold
wants
on.
to rant.
Just 1 sec. Just do a quick round robin. Not necessarily with the guys in Discord, no offence, but the guys on the G Plus panel, right? If I said to you today, if you go to Jose's, right, you're never coming back. What would you do? What would be your reaction to me in that moment?
Oh yeah,
I'd out loud.
One at a time. I heard 10th first. 10th first. I heard 10th first. Then I heard Arwin. Then I heard Brian.
Yeah, I'd call you out.
Before them all.
Okay. Oh, were you Adam? My bad. Okay, Adam. Then 10th.
I'm not asked.
You'll go last. Okay. Whoever. 10th. Please go ahead. Do you need the question
I would
again?
call you out to your face instantly.
I know damn well you would. Anybody else?
Yeah, me. I was second.
Go ahead.
I'd be like, who are you? Nathan, I know when to do some shit like that. What is this? What's going on? I'd look at my phone, like, am I on the right show? Like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Oh my!
I think I'd in your face.
No respect for the order.
We need to get some order together, lads, because we're all...
Arwin, then Brian. Arwin, then Brian, then Adam. Go ahead, Arwin.
Your name is not Arwin, Neil.
I'm just not having Nathan
I'd be
tell
laughing.
me the order. Somebody else tell me the order to do things, and I can't have Nathan doing it.
I'm going to try once more. Right,
I'm gonna stay
stop.
awake
Everyone
for
stop.
another
Everyone
week
stop,
if you
including
don't
Arwin.
stop
Arwin's
spamming
going
me.
next, but just want everyone to stop before he does. And I'm going to ask the question again, because the audience has lost track by now. So if I was to tell you, Arwin, that were you to do something specific or go somewhere specific, you'd never be welcome back, what would be your reaction?
Well, it all depends on how you would say it. I think you would probably be joking at first. I'd be laughing, ha ha ha, and then like, wait, you serious?
No, I mean it. If you go to Jose's, I will disown you. You'll be banned. You won't be allowed back in if you want to. Arwin.
I'd be severely shocked. I'd be like, oh my God, not you, Nathan. Don't go ranty on us or something.
Don't go ranty. Okay, fair enough. Right, Brian, go ahead.
If you said that to me, Nathan, I'd be joining Jose's immediately.
That would be that is exactly what I'd do. I'd do it out of spite. I agree. Yeah, I'd say, well, fuck you. That's exactly what I'll do then.
Yeah, no, you're not the boss of me. Yeah.
That did happen in a workplace once. That did happen
Sorry,
with
that
an
dropped
employer.
out. My internet cut off for a moment.
One sec.
I think the DDoS me.
I'm going to get to Adam last because he's probably got the most important point to make on this, Riven. But just bear with us a second. Just go ahead, Neil. You go first.
I would say, is this coming from the top, Nathan, or is this your decision?
You'd ask me if it was Dave Weiss telling you.
Exactly.
It would be me. It would be me telling you, right? It's comparable to Jem Pandas telling his server participants that if they come here, they'll be banned. I can't quite believe this. It's just what is going through the guy's mind?
Seriously.
But for a week,
But there's a dilemma as well.
Because if this was the type of show that I was on, I wouldn't be here all these years that I've been coming here. So to me, it would just not even be a serious thing. Sorry.
But there's a bit of a paradox to the whole situation as well with what Jam Panda is doing, because how would they know, right, that somebody would be going there unless somebody would be watching them?
I'll get to that next. That's where I was going next. Oh, go on, Riven, because you're going to run past Adam for sure.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. I can't help it. I'm excited.
Are you just nodding along?
You're just like, yeah, because I hear the conversation.
I haven't finished.
Like, yeah, no part of the crowd.
Put yourself on mute. Oh, God. I'm going to get complaints on this show. I know I am. God. Adam, go ahead.
There's nothing like being built like that. I think I'd agree with Brian. I'd have laughed, headed straight over to Jose's, I think made a number of statements, but then I'd probably be driving down south just to check whether the back of your neck had a scar on it, mate, because it would be so the opposite of like what Chocolate says. We've been here all these years. I'd be thinking you've been taken over, captured by ballers, brainwashed or something. That to be coming out your mouth. It's kind of the antithesis of why we're here. We're here because we're individuals, yeah, that share a common viewpoint. We're not part of a cult where our views must be aligned.
Amazing,
Check the hand and forehead.
It's because they're part of the consensus. They just don't appreciate when they behave like a cult. And likewise, if you're in a cult, you don't know you're in a cult. So when you demonstrate these cult-like behaviours and someone who's on the periphery, on the outskirts of your cult says, that's very cult-like, they go, no, I will never associate with you again.
If anyone watches what happens to Scientologists who try and leave the congregation, and you see what happens, there's a type of hazing, I can't remember what they call it, it's a type of hazing where a couple of Scientologist members follow them around with cameras and haze them if they are seen talking or heard to talk about it, or if they leave or anything. There's just this like you're basically harassed when you leave.
Right. Well, look, they comment on my social media and all of my platforms calling me a flat earther. When I started arguing against them about some of their argument points, as soon as I was like, because remember when I used to argue against flat earthers, like they used to all say a load of good things about me. The moment I started arguing against the globe, they all turned on me, and they all was like, "Oh, you're flat earther."
So we're all in agreement that we shouldn't. We're all in agreement that we shouldn't, but maybe we could ban Tommy for a week for being in gym.
Yeah. That's fair enough. Fair enough.
I have a question.
Hold on, everyone calm down. Chocolate. Hello. Go ahead, Chocolate.
Yeah, I just want to ask Tommy one question. Is it just banned for coming to this show in particular, or is there other places that the banning stands for?
I think it's because I kind of advertised it there, isn't it? So obviously everyone who was watching and everyone who was listening, I kind of said like, well, look, these ain't even my core arguments. I just said that you should probably go on to Nathan Oakley's show and argue yourself. And then he said, if anyone does that's banned. Then I goes, but why is that such a problem? We went into why it's a problem. He said it's because Nathan Oakley doesn't give people a chance to talk. He talks over them and etc. I says, yeah. I says, you can't get me like that. I says, but so can you, because you've been like that for me. And he demonstrated it then because he muted me and talked over me within that argument exactly the same thing. I says, when you're moderating a show, it's hard work. So sometimes you do get the ugly side that's portrayed. Okay, but in general, Nathan does let you present your case because he wants to destroy you on your case. So you do get a chance to speak, but you get held to what you say, and that's why a lot of people don't want to come on here because they will get found out. They can't just spill their bullshit like they said. That's what they do.
Some I think we should get off our high horses, and I speak personally. Yeah, I was kind of semi-banned from coming here, wasn't I? It was stop hanging around with Nathan's lot because they're bad. It's not you, Adam. They're bad flat earthers. and that's why I was kicked out of Iron Realm. So we're not faultless ourselves on our side. Yeah, we do it to ourselves as well.
Really? Is he on our side?
There's a lot of animosity though, isn't there, as well? And there's a lot that so sometimes there's personal matters between people too, and I find that like, you know, that's what Jem. I don't know if that's what Jem hates about me, but he hates me. Like I've done something wrong to him personally. Like I don't even know Jem. I've heard about him. I don't really care, to be honest. But
You left the cult.
I've personally made these arguments up because
Tommy, you left the cult, man. You create.
I parrot the arguments because they are the best arguments.
The greatest criminal act. You left the cult. That's it.
I didn't know I was in a cult, mate. I just believed that, like, obviously, that everything that I've been taught as a child was true, and obviously, it's like it might not be true, and I'm quite happy with that. But I think they don't even want to consider it for a single second that it could possibly be true. Like they don't even fathom. They don't fathom that for a single second. They think that everyone's lying and acting and pretending that the Earth's flat because they get special attention from it, and they get.
I think some of them.
I said that's the
A
worst
lot of them
reason.
do.
Before you round up, mate, can I have a shameless plug?
Go ahead, Chocolate. Just round out your point, then yes, Adam.
I'm sorry, man. I don't know if am I being heard? Is my headphones
You're a bit quiet though. You're a bit quiet, bro.
Yeah, you're slightly low on volume.
It's not to do with volume. Everybody's over talking everyone today.
That's correct. Everyone's over talking everyone, and when you're trying to get a point in, Riven's pausing for a minute. Then you try and get the point in across, and he's not giving you enough time. He's relatively new though. Give him a chance. So we all had to learn this etiquette. He'll get there.
No, it's all good. No worries.
What, Chocolate? You had a point to make though.
That doesn't mean I need you to take over the control of the show. Thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, I was just gonna say that you say that you don't think for a second that anyone can think it's real. I think a lot of them do, which is why they exist, right? Because if none of them could accept that this is real for even a second, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. The globe would just defend itself. They would not need to set up a headquarters to have a place where people can come and learn the same crap that they've learned since they were 5, right? Because that's all they're doing. They're there to keep the thought police crap going, right? Because anybody that thinks outside of that box, as you've just told us, is not even allowed to come back in the box for a good minute.
I've just had a thought, Chocolate. How many other arenas have got the equivalent of what we have in anti-flat earthers? So we used Bigfoot earlier. Is there a faction of anti-Bigfooters?
No.
Not that I know of.
I think there might be like a more generalized version of that, like anti-conspiracy theorists, debunkers, like people like Mick West and people like that. But I don't think they're specifically target groups like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and shit like that. But it's it's kind of evident, right? Because why, if we're classified as that type of thing, why aren't those type of factions exist? Right?
I think
I get why you ask.
Because it's one of the most, like, when it come across, it was like, someone believed the Earth's flat. How fucking stupid could you believe the Earth's flat? So they've gone in with such arrogance that when I've actually looked into it and have realised I'm gone, there could be a point there that they feel like they're going to be the stupidest thing that they ever once thought that they could ever be. And it's getting frightened them that's what they think. They think, like, when you hear flat Earth, you think it's the stupidest thing a person could ever possibly be, right? So it's like the ultimate thing, isn't it? People think the Earth's flat. Really? Are these people, the spastics like that out there? And then they go and look at it.
You're right.
And then they realise
after
it
Adam.
is like dissonance training.
Yeah, go for it.
Say again, Adam.
I say Tommy's right. It's not like where we're getting together to learn things. They're getting together to reaffirm the dissonance. So just to kind of keep patting themselves on the back. Yeah, you can ignore the fact that we can't have gas pressure without a container, and just to reaffirm the dissonance to each other. They're in that little cult saying, yeah, definitely the aliens are coming next week, yeah, to save us all. And to keep telling themselves that, that's kind of what those clubs are about. Telling that you can have gas pressure without a container. The horizon is the leading edge of all. You know, all this dissonance that's in their own heads. It's a little group to just help. They share their pain with each other, but keep band-aiding each other's dissonance.
Where is there? I know, I've just thought of one, but can anybody else think of one before I get to the one I've thought of? I mean, as another example, ghosts. You know, there's plenty of people out there claiming that there's spirits, that the undead, people's relatives floating around in houses, or poltergeists, all this kind of crap. Is there an anti-ghost faction where they're sitting around in echo chambers telling people if they don't go along with the anti-ghost rhetoric, they'll be banned? Is there anything like that? I've got one.
Well, there is.
People do get declared insane by psychiatry if they like go ballistic over it.
But there is, Nathan, there is, for ghosts and Bigfoot and stuff like that, what you have is you have people who are involved in claimed science, and most of them, it's pure pseudoscience, who look down their nose at people who might claim to have seen Bigfoot or claim to have seen a ghost. And they'll say, well, and it'll be always within a show that's put on by Discovery Channel or something like that, where they will belittle these people and kind of say, make kind of half light of it, make a joke of it, and say, well, there's no real scientific evidence, blah, blah, blah. When actually that's not true when it comes to Bigfoot or ghosts, believe it or not. There is some evidence. I don't know if you call it scientific evidence, but there is evidence, right? But the thing about it is the same people that will belittle them and say there is no science for any of that are created pseudoscience maniacs.
Right, there is data.
The serious scientists aren't getting involved in going on to television shows. It's always like astrophysicists and all this kind of stuff. They don't have real like biologists and stuff being on these shows. You may have for Bigfoot, but mainly it's just DNA people, and they can't, if they're given something and they can't fit that DNA to anything else, you know, they just say, I don't know, it's a mystery. That's all they'd say. But other than that, you have just a load of pseudoscientists trying to claim science, claim they were an authority of some kind, and put down these groups. Now, I'm not saying these groups are correct, but the people who are putting them down are a load of bullshit. Sorry for the language.
No, I totally get it. I'm more looking for the comparison to the Gem Panda server, where you've got a very cultish behaviour going on in a group that stands against the rhetoric of a globe and the rhetoric of flat Earth. Hence the term anti-flat earther. Well, is there anti-ghosters? I mean, there is definitely, I'll get to my example now, anti-evolutionists, right? So you've got the evolutionary argument, then the people who stand against evolution, and then the people who stand against the people who stand against evolution. So there are definitely camps of people, groups of people who are, you know, coming up with the whys and wherefores and the reasonings behind why the anti-evolutionists are wrong. And probably with very similar comparisons, i.e. they have to stand against their own evolution claims in order to fight against the anti-evolutionists. But that's the only one I can think of.
That's a good one, Nathan, because, again, you see, they're not supporting evolution. They're anti-creationists. So they don't take their own stands. They just attack the creationists. They don't provide alternative. They don't use evolution. They just attack creationists. So it's probably about the closest equivalent, isn't it?
It's the only one I could think of, and I sat here for 2 or 3 minutes trying to rack my brains for any other faction that I could think of that you could say, right, here's the mainstream opinion, here's the anti-mainstream opinion, and here's the anti-anti-mainstream opinion. And you go, yeah, you got that in evolution, yeah, you got that in flat Earth. What else have you got it in?
Nathan, you started this.
Pharmaceutical
Nathan,
Look, Nathan. This might be slightly offended with this, right? But there's a comparison. When he says that you mute me and you shout over me and stuff like that, I says that's what you do as well, though, Jam. You do exactly the same thing. So the very thing that he tried to paint you as probably the worst person that ever lying to everybody. You're a flat earther, blah blah blah, whatever he wants to say about you. But his behaviour can be very similar in the way he shouts, and he's very domineering and very mutes people and talks over. Because it's just so he's become the very thing he hates. So by him doing certain, like, I don't know, cult-like things, I'm not saying that you're probably guilty of them, but I'm saying that there's certain things that when reflected upon, that he was just as bad as he could make out. Like he's basically spent his entire time the last 5 years, as far as I know, because he picked me up from your show. Because in the comment section is when someone messaged me and says, "Oh, I'll join this server and we'll talk to you about the Horizon and all that." And I joined them, and then they was all talking to me about you and everything like that. And that's how I come across that server. They poached me from the So speaking to them, then I came kind of like, "Oh yeah, Nathan Oakley, Nathan Oakley." But there's not much difference between what they're doing themselves. Do you get what I mean?
No, it's just pure projection. You're having me on. Not much difference. That is what they're doing. They're just projecting their own digressions onto me. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular significance if you drive an electric vehicle. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
That's crazy.
I was gonna.
Yeah, they're literally ban you, mate.
But how would they? But my question is, how would they know if you came on here unless one of them had to be on here to know?
That's what I was going to get to in the live show. We just didn't have time. So that's when you need the psychopathic monster that is Gem Panda to triangulate his cohorts by way of flying monkeys. Did you see him on that server? You did.
Flying
monkeys. Flying monkey.
He needs the people that pay attention to other people and not to arguments, right? Like coordinators or curators. That's what he needs. And he probably has them in the background. Or maybe he is doing it all himself, which would be even creepier.
Probably. They
Nathan,
do to those extents.
I was going to correct you on something. You started off with, is there any channels on Bigfoot? You remember? That's what started the whole thing. Well, there are channels on Bigfoot, and you can't get booted off because all sizes are welcomed.
Oh my god, I can't stand
Terrible.
this guy's puns. That is the oh god, Bigfoot. You get it? Fucking me.
Ban him.
Oh god, I listen to his puns sometimes. He's got the lowest form of puns, and I can't say he's the champion of the lowest form of puns.
He says ban him.
Don't worry, Tommy. Tommy, you just proved you must have a Bigfoot, but you'll heal from that.
Oh, that was funny, mate. Honestly, champion.
Boom, boom.
You always come out with them.
Alrighty then.
That's the thing, because it's funny because you keep doing it, like because they're good as well, and they're that quality. Like every time, so I gotta keep. You need extra praise for consistency. Oh god.
Hey, Johnny Cerrucci calls his people flying monkeys. How about that for a friendly? They don't even realize what they're being
Flying
called.
spaceball monkeys.
You know what a flying monkey is?
Flying spaceball monkeys, isn't it? Spaceballs.
No, it's a psychopathic
balls.
term.
No, I never heard it.
Anybody here flying monkeys? Anybody
flying
know what
monkey.
I'm?
Oh, I don't give a
Maybe
flying monkey,
as I
yeah.
ask, I should be talked straight through.
Yeah,
the
I've
middle.
heard that.
Maybe talk straight through the middle of me while I ask the question, Tommy. I would.
I just remembered when you asked me before.
Anybody know what I'm referring to when I say flying monkeys?
I think I caught the reference to it.
No one gives a flying monkeys, Nathan.
No, Tommy.
Yeah, I do.
The Wizard of Oz.
Tommy, please go on mute. Right, just disturbing the conversation. It's getting really annoying. You don't know what it means. That means pop yourself on mute. Don't laugh through people who are trying to answer. Don't nod along. Thank you. Who was it that said two or three people?
Described as a flying monkey. Right now, if he was to be somebody that was being sent in by somebody else, and he would be what he's doing there could be considered kind of flying monkey. There, you're trying to get somebody to control somebody else, I think, isn't it?
Flying monkeys.
It's a narcissistic thing.
It's a narcissistic spy. So flying monkeys are the people who are sucking up to the narcissist and basically out there spying on whoever they need to be spying on. So obviously, if in this case, in this scenario, you've got Jem Panda, who's the person who's actually pulling the strings, but he can't be the one actually looking in every corner, so he needs lots of little flying monkeys all over the place watching what other people do, so that when one of the flying monkeys lands on his shoulder and goes, this person was in that science versus pseudoscience Discord server. Okay, flying monkey, thank you very much, fly away. And then when that person comes back in, he can take the great pleasure in saying, I know full well you were in that server. Well, how do you know it wasn't broadcast? Because they've gone in at a time that the show's not on. Yeah, well, I know. They're not going to say because X, Y, and Z told me, because they were in the server as well at the same time under a different name as a flying monkey.
Weren't you going to say something about your time on a Discord channel?
Well, I thought flying monkey was like, you know, when people say, I don't give a fuck. The guy, I don't give a fuck.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. Go ahead, 10th.
Weren't you going to say something about your time on the Discord 24/7?
I did it in the pre-show, talking about the misapprehensions about Coriolis effect when it's described from the projectile's point of view rather than from the spinning reference frame, i.e. non-inertial turning reference frame.
Nathan, remember... Sorry, Nathan, to try to finish that.
No, I thought it was something else. I didn't think that was it, but all right.
No, that was it.
Remember, before the end of the live show, you're talking about other other things like flat Earth, that another reference to something that gets attacked that has an anti-version of it, and you brought up evolution, like anti-creationists and that. Well, that is not really something different. It's the same argument, isn't it? Basically, it's basically tied in or married into flat globe argument. Because most of the people on the globe, well, I can't say most, but a large portion of the people on the globe side are absolute evolutionists, whereas people on the flat Earth side are creationists. So it's the same argument, essentially, isn't it? In a lot of ways.
Yeah, they're certainly intertwined.
The ones that don't have proof become cults.
Yes, they're definitely intertwined.
I'm saying the ones that can't prove anything, they tend to become the cults.
Are you talking, Brian? Are you talking about in a legal fashion in the, or are you talking about like?
No, I'm talking about the general baller, John. The general baller is most of them are evolutionists. They believe in evolution. That's all kind of evolution is only something that would turn up because of a globe belief. So most globers are evolutionists, and I could say every flat earther. I can say this with more or less confidence. Every flat earther is a creationist, because you can't not, you can't go back. Evolution you're just not going to go that direction. You would have walked away from that if you're a flat earther.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying a heliocentric flat earther as well. You don't find any of them around.
Exactly.
Or a NASA believing flat earther. I've just thought of one. There is one guy out there who's a flat earther and believes in NASA. Bad example. I won't mention his name.
Yeah, but he's spaced out.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you've never contemplated it in context of, there's flat maybe, but to be a flat earther, how do you keep those two things apart in your mind, That's where the supposed pictures from the natural law violation come from,
Yeah, you can't square that circle once you know the gas pressure without a container argument.
Well, technically, you have to be a... Sorry, go on then.
No, you go. You were first.
Okay, thank you. Technically, you wouldn't even have to be a flat earther. You just have to accept that what a vacuum is and what pressure differentials are and how an airplane works. And if you looked into that and honestly looked at it and honestly looked at a submarine, there's no way you would believe that they are going to the pressures they're talking about in the things they're talking about, regardless of whether you believe those pressures are there and the place exists. There's no way you could believe that they're going there with what they're saying. It just would be completely impossible, just on vacuum alone.
I was going to say that as a child growing up, going through different phases, leaving the Catholic Church because I knew that there was a God, but he wasn't in that building. I told my mother. And then having a few years of just not being indoctrinated by anything, I just saw creation and I knew there was a creator. There always is evidence here for anyone to see by the things that are made that there's intelligent design behind it. And so when people would bring up evolution and all that, I'd say, open your eyes. I mean, I didn't have the arguments against evolution like I do now, but I didn't need them. If it's a design, there has to be a designer.
There's also beauty in creation. If you look all around, there's like beauty everywhere. And that also is intelligent design. You don't just splat paint on the canvas and it's like, beautiful art. You got to have intelligence behind it, right?
Yeah, there's order. There's now that we're on flat Earth and the stars, the sun, and how they repeat themselves, and how we have our seasons and all that. That's just expresses a design.
Well, it was one of the things I always found the most difficult to understand. And one of the worst, most stupid statements I've ever heard is that somebody who grew up within a religious background, like here where I'm from, where there was a strong Catholic power here and still is telling people what to do, because they walked away from that or got away from that Catholic power, people then decided that there was no God and no creator because religion failed them. It's like religion has absolutely nothing to do with a creator. That's a man-made setup. So it's the most stupid and kind of arrogant, or I don't know what way to describe it, statement or stance to take. And I've heard it from people. It's like, there is no God because religion failed them. It's like, what has religion got to do with anything? It's like, religion, what the heck, what has that got to do with a creator? That has no bearing on whether there's a creator or not.
Brian, I could totally agree with you there. I was talking to a person in a cult, and it got to the point where every objection was answered because they were saying they believed in the Bible. And I said, well, show it to me. Then I can believe what you believe. And they couldn't show it to me. And I would show them the exact opposite. Well, this thing turned into a very... and these were good friends of our family, and it turned into a very painful mental condition for this one person in the couple that we were talking to. It was the wife. And she said, well, if this is wrong, then there is no God. And I said, wait a minute, why are you saying that? You could have been fooled like I was with Catholicism and how they try to rule me. But I believe in God. Why can't you? And so I says, no, it's either this or there's no God. And that told me a lot about that person. It's just that they were never, even in their religion, bowing to a false God. They were the God.
Does that being wrong negate the existence of information?
Well, that was my point.
Because as long as that's there, it had to come from somewhere. So sorry.
Right. But Chocolate, that was my point. So let's go back to prior to being called out for these false, doctrines that they held, because they realized they were false. Now, that person is no longer faithful to that cult that they were in, but is also just abandoned any, desire to know God. So what happened there? Well, when you look at it before, during, and after, it only proves one thing. They were never subservient to that religion only. It was part of them, and that pride was in there. So when their pride got hurt, then there is no God. Well, look, you can kill my pride all you want. I'd rather have God than my pride. And so it's an issue of pride at the end.
Well, the meaning of religion is return to bondage. If we look it up, the root word and the meaning is return to bondage. Religion is what hung Jesus on a cross.
Well, another statement that always this really infuriates me, or used to, I don't let it bother me now. And because this all comes from a lack of responsibility from people. The claim about religion failing them, so there is no God. That's a lack of responsibility, personal responsibility. But there's a much worse one that really gets to me, and that is, if there was a God, how come all these people are starving in Africa? It's like, these people are starving in Africa because of us, not because of whether there's a God or not. It's like, that is on us.
How is it on us?
Yeah.
Whoa. How is it on us? Define us.
Well, it's on us as in
When he says
human
us,
race.
I think he means other people.
Not
I
you
think he means us on this panel.
Yeah.
No, I know not
calm
us,
down,
but
like,
define
it's not
us
you.
as in mankind or a certain country.
Mankind, human beings. Who are leaving these people starve? Other
about
human
the whole
beings.
country?
Hold on.
Other human beings.
Hold on. Let's just get it clear. I do actually blame Neil for that.
Oh, well, I'm starting to blame Neil.
True.
I'm starting to blame Neil now as well.
Well, blame the
Damn New Yorkers.
I remember, if I may interject, I remember the great Rush Limbaugh, before he passed, he said, if you're living in a God-forbidden place, and he was mentioning a place in Africa that was dealing with water shortages and drought and food shortages, here, I got one advice for you, move. So, which was, kind of like in your face. Well, if it's not habitable for you, why are you still there? Second, all the aid that the people with hearts send to those countries, guess who gets it? The warlords. The warlords use it. They never feed the populace. So what has God got to do with that? Why are you sending money to warlords?
Yeah, but see, the thing about it is, regardless of the whole situation, it goes back to the human being. The human being is allowing the human being to starve. It's not like, the point I'm making is, the people who state, if there was a God, there wouldn't be people starving in Africa. There's people starving in Africa because other people are allowing them to do it. You know what I mean? Why is there no uproar in public about this? Why is there no uproar in public about all the people who have always been starving on the continent of Africa? Why?
Well, that was my exact point. That was my exact point. People do care. People do send money, and it gets into the hands of the warlords, and it never gets to the people. So people are trying to live by conscience and feed their fellow man, but it's just not getting there. So now take care of the problem, get rid of the warlords so that people don't starve.
Yeah, but it's not. But my point is, I think you're complete. I don't know if you're getting it, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're getting it. But my point is, God is not responsible for that. You can't blame God when we have the ability to change it.
No, we're not. I am getting what you're saying. I'm also saying God, the people who are sending money for food are guided, a lot of them, because one, they care for their fellow man. Others who are believing in God know it's the right thing to do. So it's intertwined somehow as to where the money came from, are from good, willing people. Some of them being, instructed by their conscience to serve God. Because, if you see someone hungry, if I see someone hungry, I'm feeding them. I don't care who they are. I'm not going to give them money because they'll go buy booze for the most part, but I'll feed them.
Yeah, well,
No, I'm sorry about that.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, thank you. I just wanted to add something to that, because this is a type of conversations I have with some of my close acquaintances. But before you establish, if there is a God, why would he do X, Y, and Z? First, you have to establish an existence of a creator. Now, regardless of what religion you follow or what belief system you follow, there are signs when you look around us, especially when you go out to the mountains or you go out, away from civilization. You clearly see the effects of, intelligent design, to the point where, children, like, imagine if religion never existed, children would be predisposed in believing in the creator. It's just one of those things that, is hardwired inside of us to believe that there is a creator or there is intelligent design. You know, ideologies like atheism and evolution, it comes later on. It comes as a learning it comes as something, that you're indoctrinated to believe. It's not something that you're predisposed to believe. I can't even say that word. But yeah, before even any of that, why would God do X, Y, and Z? There is existence of intelligent design. It's undeniable when you look at the some of the effects of creation around us, just observing the universe, or I'm just using it generally, very broadly. If you look at the universe around us, you clearly see that it didn't come haphazardly. There had to be intelligent design behind that.
Well, the Bible says creation declares its glory.
I have to agree with that. There's only one conclusion, that when you've got data and information, there has to be an input. They're saying that the Big Bang, everything expanded into everything we see today, and all the gravity collapsed on itself, and all the things synchronously. We have night and day. We have whatever. So that all happened without no intelligent design. That's a lot harder to believe than actually somebody just put this in place. Somebody, or something created it. Intended it purposely. Some input. It's the only logical conclusion. That takes less insanity. It takes more insanity to think, well, yeah, it's always been here, it's always is, it always has. Bang. No need for no creator. Like that. That to me is just like, it sends a shiver down my spine of like, this is intuitively wrong.
Hey, Nathan, I meant to apologize to you earlier about yesterday. I didn't hear your question, and I ruined a good point about the controlled release. So I'm sorry about that.
I can't even remember what the conversation was about, so it's not like I was fussed, but maybe bring the conversation back up. I don't know what it was. Can't remember.
Well, it was, you said in context of making the paradigm shift to Einsteinian in the curriculum. What does that say about, this possibly being a controlled release? And I completely screwed that up. I'm sorry about that.
Fine. I only vaguely remember what the point was, so it can't have been that important. I do generally think that quantum mechanics, the onset of that, has brought this to the forefront. In other words, it's a kind of natural progression from people realizing that we don't have an Einsteinian world and the quantum mechanical world is now the current rhetoric. And there's a lot of bullshit in quantum mechanics as well. The scientific validity that it offers is wonderful, and it's led to lots of new bullshit artists with lots of new bullshit. But it doesn't change the fact that that does fundamentally debunk the Einsteinian paradigms that are currently in place with heliocentrism. And if that particular band-aid mathematical description in pseudo-4 space is no more relevant than the 106-year out-of-date band-aid mass-attracting mass that we're fighting to get out of the education system, well, if that's the case, then we can only assume that this heliocentric system will eventually crumble to the wayside because it is invalid, even by the standards of current mainstream consensus science. Heliocentrism is being debunked by consensus science, let alone the actual experimentation data that you get from quantum mechanics, which is where this conversation spans from when you talk about the ontological primitives, or although he didn't label them, that's what Tommy was just talking about. When you've got the everything from nothing first law of thermodynamics violation versus the requirement to have a knower to have information in the first place validated by experiments in terms of the delayed choice and the double slit experiments. Well, knowledge of the which path in that instance, double slit, that knowledge requires somebody to know it, a knower. So when you come to the ontological primitives and deciding whether or not there's going to be a creator or not, it's not exactly a difficult choice. I was one of the people, I know a few people on the panel were like, no, there are no atheist flat earthers. That was actually something I did definitely brace against when I first got here. I was like, no, I don't want that. I want to open the cupboard to my skeletons. No way. No, I don't want that. No, there's not a God. And I braced against it for the longest time until we got to the ontological primitives. I'm like, there's no logical There's no way I can lean towards everything from nothing. It cannot be that way. It won't, it can't, it isn't. And therefore, what's your alternative? Well, there's only one, a creator.
They'll always straw man you though and say that we don't say it comes from nothing. The rhetoric is, we don't say obviously it comes from an unknown. But at the end of the day, you're saying it all happened without any sort of intent. And I think like the Earth wasn't here at the beginning of the Big Bang, and you're saying everything that happened after that was just random energy being spurted out that collapsed in on itself, that created new elements by itself, and created cosmos and galaxies, and it's just like crazy. Like it's all happened on its own, just out of random energy. It all just collapsed in on itself and just had these written for all the, and you're saying no input at all was being given by a creator. It just happened. So they're saying, it could always it could expand and keep collapsing and keep expanding and collapsing. So now they're just running away with it. Anything else is possible, but that they're going on like it's easy to believe that the universe goes through an expansion and a collapse, the big snap, than it is to just believe that maybe it was created by God. You know what
Sorry
I mean?
about that, Tommy.
Sorry. No, always on babbling anyway. Sorry. Go on,
No, but the term you're looking for is necessary existence. That's what the atheists will purport. They'll purport that there was a necessary existence, that there was an originator, a first originator, but they won't ascribe it to a creator. They'll ascribe it to the cosmos, to Big Bang, to
But mathematically, they're getting that from dividing by zero and getting everything in existence. I mean, it's absolutely absurd mathematically and in practice, and it violates the first law of thermodynamics. There's a lot of reasons not to go with the current paradigm when they describe the Big Bang. Again, when you get down to experimental nitty-gritty, you don't even have to label it a creator. Knower. To have knowledge, to have information, you need a knower. So at the start of the process, the start of it all, there must have been a knower. There is no other alternative. There's only two ontological primitives.
Exactly. I mean, and that's it. I mean, I was a proper atheist coming into this. I was a real. I mean, I've watched all the Thunderfoot videos, laughing at Ray Comfort. It's a laugh at all of them. When the internet first came on, we had the dial-up internet. That's when I first got on the internet. And I used to watch all them KSI and all them before they got famous. Before Thunderfoot got famous, I used to watch all his videos and laugh at like the creationists. Think like, they are, look at that, they think this and that, they think that. And obviously, they don't know the difference between a monkey and the amphibians and blah blah blah. I used to go laugh along with it all, and then obviously getting to flat Earth, like the arguments with flat Earth, you realise things aren't what they seem, and then you look into deep space and you look at what things actually are, and you start to really think about it. When you start to really be honest with it, you think to yourself, how could this have made it itself? It's just this is becoming absurd now. You realise how absurd what you used to believe. You used to believe that it just happened over time. When you add millions and billions of years to it, that's what makes me laugh. Is when Globers talk about it, but billions and billions of years, I laugh because I make stupid examples, and they say that it's incredulity. But I try to break it down simple. If you've got all the ingredients to bake a cake, and you've got all the ingredients on the side, right? You can sit there and pray that them for billions and billions of years that will make a cake, but it won't. It'll just rot and decay. If you want a cake, you got to fucking bake a cake, and obviously them ingredients, whatever the ingredients are of the energy and all that, the Big Bang is what we have today. We're the makeup of whatever it's been created from.
Right, I gave you this term as well a couple of days ago. Functional sequence specified complexity is what you're detailing. QE gives the example with the sandcastle, far less complex than life, but no matter how many eons elapse, the sand dunes will never form a complex structure like a sandcastle. It just won't happen. Again, you need intelligence for that to occur. But I do quite fancy segueing back onto the... Now I've been thinking about it, numbing it over in my mind since John brought it up. But given that you've got quotes like, the first sip of the cup of natural science will make you an atheist, but at the bottom of the cup, God is waiting for you. I think that's slightly paraphrased. I can't remember who said it either. Maybe Adam will remember. Is it Krauss? I can't remember who it was. It's not relevant. But the point is, in terms of...
I think it was Niels Bohr.
Thank you, Chocolate. Perfect. But those sorts of quotes are coming out of the mouths of astrophysicists. No, of course not. They're coming out of the quantum mechanics camp. Well, that's the current science. That is the new hotness. You know, 106 years ago, Einstein was the new hotness. Now quantum mechanics is the new hotness. So when you actually look at current rhetoric, it fundamentally undermines heliocentrism. Now, that can't be something that is unaware at the higher echelons of society. They will be aware of it. It's current scientific rhetoric. It's the consensus. So based on that, you can say, well, there can only be a description of a top-down crumbling of this system. That's what we seem to be observing as well. You know, I can't describe it any other way. It is Neil said the other day, well, why is it the case that they're not having the space paradigm collapsing? I still see it on CNN. It's like, no, but it is. You know, we are in existence and, you know, getting larger in numbers, and your average Joe Normie is becoming more and more aware of this subject at a conscious level because of that. So, you know, that is definitely the case. As much as maybe in 2015 when someone like Dirth said, oh, well, you know, it's going to go exponential overnight. Well, it hasn't. It's slowly trickled down. But trickle down, it continues. And the top of that trickling is quantum mechanics, debunking the very foundations of heliocentrism. So to me, this is a paradigm change. It's not like I'm sitting here thinking, no, eventually we'll be blotted out, censored out of existence, because that simply isn't the case either. We're not having that happen. There's a perception of that happening. There's an overt stating in some instances that we are being censored. Or to put it another way, look over here at what we're censoring, general public. Again, that makes my eyebrows rise as well. So you go, okay, there's got to be a paradigm shift change that's happening as we speak.
But it's already happening palpably, if I may. Like, it's already palpably happening right now, and it has been over the last 5 years at least. And that is that when we all started this out and somebody would bring up flat earth in an unsuspecting group, you would get yelled at. You would get people really loud that would be pissed off and would like try to rally everybody up around them to shame you into silence or kick you out of the group. Now it's turning around, and instead, like the four front runners of the globe belief, they now instead go introvert and start muttering in themselves and like try to find another room to just start like, the stupid flat earth. But they don't do that big thing in the big group anymore because it doesn't work anymore. That part of the spell has worn off because of the sheer confrontation. And in that sense, the normalization, everybody has been confronted with just like, oh, these are people. These are not evil cultists. These are people with their own problems, and then they get used to it, and then they don't have that easy response to latch on to getting all riled up against flat earthers anymore. So there's a dramatic change like that as well already.
Right, the stress is too much. Go ahead, Tommy.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say that when Nathan was saying about the quantum mechanics, like already, I think because they've realised it contradicts the heliocentric models, why they've already began the process of like, because I've had advertisements come up on my YouTube search about quantum mechanics and general relativity and how they don't mesh. And obviously, science, I've had like a load of videos where I've researched it a lot, and I'm already normalised. Like I've been saying, they normalise things, and obviously, what I feel like this is what they're already doing. They're already putting out the already mental capacity to accept that something that we've discovered with quantum mechanics doesn't agree with Einstein. But hold on, Einstein is literally holding the entire globe together right now. So something that contradicts with him could never possibly be accepted. But they have to accept quantum mechanics. So now they're already psychologically like programming people. That's what the adverts come up on my YouTube search of, quantum mechanics doesn't quite fit with general relativity, but there's certain part paradigms that we're going into. So basically, they're already kind of like justifying something that completely shuts out the heliocentric model, which is what Nathan just pointed out, and I think that's why they're doing this.
And if you consider what we do here to be the tip of the spear in terms of this particular discussion, there are people, very intelligent people, at the tail end of the spear that wouldn't classify themselves as flat earthers that are doing what we're discussing at the top of the peak rather than at the ground level in the trenches like we are. And those are people like Veritasium. Does anyone keep up with him? Very mainstream channel, YouTuber.
I've never heard of him. Never heard of him.
Go on. Was that Brian?
Yeah, I was just going to say he's very much like it is what it is about stuff. Now, I don't know if he'd go as far as admitting it's flat, but he is very much, well, this is this. You know?
Yeah, it's the guy with the video. Gravity's not a force.
You got it.
I had a lot of Globers very upset. As somebody on their own side, very matter-of-factly states that this thing is not a force.
But do you see what?
Not even a thing.
Sure, but do you see why I describe him as the tail end of the spear in that respect? He's not rocking the boat.
Yeah.
He's got chit-chats going with Neil deGrasse Tyson. But he's still, as far as I'm concerned, the tail end of this same spear. And it goes full circle. It's kind of the snake eating its own tail in that regard, because it's the top of the spear or top of the mountain, however you want to metaphor it. That trickling down effect that I've described starts with the people at the top of that chain anyway. The people who are actually at the forefront of quantum mechanics, and talking about God in that respect to the quote I gave earlier, well, those are the people that start the process rolling, and then we use their rhetoric, even though it's in the mainstream. So it's like, okay, why is it the case that we have so many arguments, so many citations that are from mainstream rhetoric in this regard? It's because it is actually the mainstream now. So you start scratching your head and going, hold on, if what we're using to debunk what we're even saying is 106 years out of date, and the scientists at the top of the tree, and when I say scientists, I use the colloquial term, you know, the just so story makers, those scientists, they are all in consensus when it comes to this. This is the new mainstream. This is scientifically validated, further to that, if we want to actually take the genuine validity from it, rather than the what is the consensus. Well, while there might be a lot of ambiguity in terms of consensus in regards to the new hotness, and there's a lot of bullshit as well, there is still experimental validity to those assertions that are coming from those camps and making their way down and being utilised by us. Also being utilised by people like Veritasium at the tail end of what I describe as the spear. Us, cutting through the current rhetoric as it crumbles. Now, we take the brunt of that. You know, I'd much rather be in the Veritasium position. And I remember once, about 2 years ago, Jeranism describing how he'd much preferred to have never have come out as a flat earther and have just come at the rhetoric in terms of how it doesn't line with whatever is the mainstream rhetoric. And he was describing a very similar thing in terms of how Jeranism would be perceived now if it was just Veritasium. He would be like Veritasium, very much so, if he wasn't a flat earther. But because he came out as a flat earther, suddenly he's thrown into the trenches by default, whether he likes it or not. Cast you down to hell. You get in those trenches now. You're going to be stomped on and ridiculed whether you like it or not. Now, I'm not saying for 1 second that the Veritasium guys even considered this subject. It doesn't matter. He's still making the same arguments that we make, isn't he?
Nathan.
Sorry, I can't go after it.
I posted in the War Room a couple of days ago 2 articles, same person, Avi Loeb. Are humans lab rats? ? Harvard professor says aliens created universe in the lab. I'll just read 3 quotes. Abraham Avi Loeb once headed Harvard University's astronomy department. Now he's a best-selling author and famous for his out-of-this-world takes on alien life, including the theory that space rock Oumuamua may actually be an alien spacecraft. Second quote. In his new op-ed for Scientific American, Loeb explained why he believes the Milky Way and the surrounding universe might as well be a lab experiment of an advanced technological civilization. Third quote. In the piece, Loeb suggests how aliens could have created a baby universe by using quantum tunneling. He explained how this may be true owing to our universe's flat geometry with zero net energy. So they are looking to connect quantum with the heliocentric, but instead of giving God the glory, it's aliens. It's coming.
Well, what I would say about Veritasium... Sorry, Nathan, go on.
No, that was what I was going to do. Go ahead, Brian. I was going to introduce you to speak next. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Veritasium, like when he brought out the video of gravity is not a force, he brought that out before he brought out the video stating that the speed of light was never measured and can never be. And he used Albert Einstein as a hostile witness within that video. So it's like he knew, it's like he's structuring it, showing that, well, this is not a force, but then again, this part of this is not real either. You're not going to. So it's very good. I like Veritasium. Regardless of him being on the other side, I don't view him as an actual enemy, if you know what I mean.
It's just a YouTuber. But by the same token, you know, my comparison was to say that, you know, if you're not overtly stating things like, well, obviously we're not in a heliocentric system as the conclusion when you come across these things, you just point out discrepancies. That's what all Veritasium's doing. And it doesn't necessarily have to rock the boat too hard to do that. And in some instances, because he's skirting some of these issues that are definitely mainstream, he actually gets to discuss them with some of the pseudoscientists like Tyson. And I've seen him have discussions, and you're like, okay, so you can do that. You have actually got a route into showing the mainstream pseudoscientists, who are now the old and busted, let's make it clear. You know, he's talking to the old and busted who are going to have their rhetoric fall away from beneath their feet as the new hotness, that is quantum mechanics, pushes it to one side, debunks it effectively. It's not sugarcoated, that's what it does. Quantum mechanics debunks Einstein.
And let's face it, good morning, guys.
Hello.
Let's face it, that's how we all started, right? We all started just saying, look at this discrepancy here. The label police are the ones that had to put us in the box and tell us who we were. When actually, I think most of us came to this this conversation just thinking, why isn't there an answer for this?
Yeah, agreed. A lot of people come here and get forced and pigeonholed into being flat earthers and demanded that they explain a certain model because the person they're opposing has decided they're a flat earther and should have an answer to a straw man. So that's how it normally rolls. People find themselves, if they're hanging off the hill, you know, getting their fingers pried off and shoved down.
Is that Eli?
Yeah, of course it's Eli.
See, now today out of nowhere, I thought about Eli. Where the heck has he been? And he pops on the show today.
Was there any like 10-gallon hats involved?
How you doing, guys? Good to hear from you. What up, bro?
Good to have you, Eli.
Hey, Eli.
Yeah, good to hear your voice, fella. Been a while.
Yeah. And for a while, Eli, like Crack Villain, and currently like Tommy, although Tommy's not on the main panel, used to step all over people also.
Man. How do I get on there? How do I get on there?
By being a really good guest.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I can't be too talkative though. Like in general, I am like I just love debates. I love aggressive conversation, and that's what I mean. It's brilliant to listen to you do it because you're like militant, like I am, and it's even effort. It's good to hear you do because it's even more effortless because you bring up the arguments consistently to what's going on board, and that's quite difficult to do sometimes when you're arguing with these people.
I still can't get over what you told us about Gen Panda Server. I'm both amazed and not shocked at all, because we talk about it all day long. We describe it in detail how they're like a cult. So to have it overtly stated, you're like, oh my God, do they not realise what they're doing when they do that? And the answer is no, because they're on the side of consensus. They just think, no, that's fine. There's nothing I can do wrong in this regard. Demanding that you ascribe yourself to the cult-like behaviour that we have in this server, or else, that's perfectly fine because I've got consensus behind me when I say that you must believe this, that and the other about my argument, and don't ever let it be put in front of somebody that could challenge it. That's perfectly fine because my argument's globe argument and that's what everyone thinks. So this cult-like behaviour, perfectly acceptable. From that point of view, that's what we detail, isn't it? That's what we discuss. But to actually hear it happen, you're like, bloody hell.
He's poisoned your name so much in that forum, right? He's poisoned it so badly that even when you even say the name Nathan Oakley, it's probably worse than saying like the F word, like, or the C word. It's your name is potent in that vicinity. Do you know what I mean? So even the sheer essence of your name is just such forbiddenness, you know. So,
God bless them.
Okay.
I could just rub their fuzzy little heads.
Your pain.
Share your pain. I'd rub your little fuzzy heads and say bless you.
Maybe
if you've got so much pain that you agree, not just subconsciously, but within the group that those that step outside of the group's pre-arranged things should be punished, and have a punishment inflicted upon them that they've all mutually agreed on. Seriously, that is so cultish.
Mad,
The
isn't
fact
it?
that they're agreeing to it.
The fact that they picked me up and licked my wounds and took me in and like tried to tell me that, oh, Nathan Oakley just doesn't, like, he just ignores people. And obviously I watched from afar, and then I was like, obviously then I got involved in the debates again, and I get, you know, I come around quantum arrays, and the back end of it with like Witsy and everybody, and I kind of like learned things from a different way, and then, like, you know, as you after if we keep debating this long enough, you'll come across enough people eventually that you'll end up getting a good pattern, and you'll eventually figure out like whether what you're arguing people care about or not, or the people that do care about how, you know, and you'll get to the bottom of it. And when you get there, you think you realise, Angela, this isn't something that you can prove beyond reasonable doubt. So it's you know, if you're going to listen to my point why I think the Earth's round, I'll listen to why you think the Earth's flat. And as long as you're willing to give your evidence why you think it's round, and you want them to accept that evidence, then also you've got to be willing to accept their evidence. So when I accept my opponent's evidence of it being flat, the way to accept that evidence is not to think about my world as a globe. It's to think of their world, of a world, that isn't proven whether it's a globe or not yet. So you have to look at it from a refreshed mind without the pre-programming of you already knowing it's a globe. So if you go in there with a fresh mind, you'd never think that the Earth was rotating. You'd never think that the Moon was rotating. If you really had a fresh mind, you'd never look at the world like that. So you have to look at it honestly that way to learn the flat Earth.
But it does also work to their disadvantage when they describe it in that way. So I think it was John a couple of weeks ago was pointing out that when I said that the black swan isn't a flat Earth proof, he's like, well, it is only one step removed to take it as a flat Earth proof, because you'd have a necessity of a geometric horizon if it was a sphere, and you can't describe the plane any other way unless it has a shape to it, regardless if it's a, I don't know, whatever billion-sided shape as opposed to a spherical shape, you know, just one with like a disco ball. Whatever they're going to describe it as, at some point that's going to necessitate a geometric horizon of some description. An edge to your view that's physical in nature, exactly as they describe it in the maths, coincidentally. That is actually their claim, after all. But without it, without a geometric physical limitation to your view, i.e. a geometric horizon, it can only be flat, because any shape would give you that. So therefore, the black swan does actually work as a flat Earth proof. The lack of geometric horizon means that we can only be on a flat plane.
Nathan, it also proves that. Hang on, Tommy. Nathan, it also proves that Bob the Fallacy Guy's presentation on the sextant has failed miserably for Jim Panda to say, don't say those things about the sextant, don't even go on their shows.
Well, like Bob did and failed miserably.
Love it.
Yeah, like Bob
as well that when it just happens to be as well that light refracts just over the curve to make it appear flat. So it looks flat some days, and the days that it looks a bit obscured because of the atmosphere. That's how we know the Earth's curved, because
Stop. Your description is, they say, if I beg the question of a sphere, then the light will bend around the sphere at a rate of the sphere in the sphere-shaped air to make it look flat. Now, if you just remove all 5 of those assumptions, you've just got it's flat, because that's the actual information you're being presented with. It's just merely justified with a string of begging the question fallacies that include, I assume the ground beneath my feet is curved. I assume the light that I see is bending around the curve that would give me a geometric horizon at a rate based on the R value I've measured from the geometric horizon that I cannot see. Further to that, the air around the presupposition that the ground is falling away from my feet is also in a sphere. It's atmosphere, it's sphere-shaped air. Hence the light is bending at a rate of R that I can't derive to give me what appears to be flat in front of me. Yeah? All that is a string of begging the question fallacies that never actually gets to the point. Tommy.
The mental gymnastics they're doing.
Tommy, which point's more worthy? The one I'm in the middle of, or the one that you've decided that you're going to talk straight through me with?
Oh, definitely the one I'm in the middle of. How'd you got it? Sorry.
I don't need permission, Tommy. I just need you to shut the fuck up while I'm in the middle of a sentence. Don't need permission, right? Global or flat earther, it makes no difference, right? If you just start babbling straight through the middle of me and then say, oh, yeah, go ahead, That's going to piss me off royally. I just don't need you to be nodding along through everything everybody says. I've had endless emails and complaints about you, Tommy. I'm just telling you like it is. People are getting pissed off with you and therefore pissed off with me. Because I can't stop you doing it. No matter what I say to you, you've decided that you're just going to open your mic, middle of somebody saying something, and just blast straight through the middle of them, regardless of how many times I ask you not to do it. Now, there are times that other panel members do it, and the person who hears them shuts up immediately. Yeah, they're talking through the middle of them, but the person who's hearing that recognises that they've got a point that's valid, that's going to assist the point. Typically, what you'll do is interject with one of your own personal experiences that relates directly to you and no one else. And then you go, is anybody hearing me? No, Tommy, it's just we can't directly link what we were talking about, you interrupted, with you specifically in your own experience. But you've interjected and now wondering why no one else is talking after you've done that. Now, I don't want to labour this point with you, Tommy, but I don't know what else to do.
That's all good, man. I didn't realise it was that deep. I'm just enjoying the conversation.
Listen to one of the shows. Read some of the comments. Listen back to somebody in the middle of a really valid point.
I'm going to go on the live now. I'm going to check the live out because I don't have it on the screen. So,
you've got to appreciate that when other people do it.
It's all good. Sorry to ruin the show. You know, it's at the end of the day, you've got a lot to talk about, and
sure, I have the same conversation with everybody, but typically it's. Let's just drop it.
I just want to say that Tommy actually has a lot of good points, and he makes a lot of good points.
Indeed, that's why I'm being brutal on him.
Yeah, Tommy could. It's just the timing. It's just the timing. That's all it is. If the timing changed a bit, it would be so much better. Because Tommy always has something to say, something that has merit. Oh.
I understand his position. I understand his position though, because when I first come to this subject, I was excited too.
But pertinence is key. I think Tommy's made a good few points, but he's just got to realise that in the middle of a topic, we don't want to hear about the cheese sandwich you had last Tuesday, and that's.
Yeah, no, mate. I hate myself, to be honest. I know that, you know, when you give me shit, I know I deserve it. Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm not arguing, really. That's why I'm not saying, oh, how dare you say this? I know I deserve it because I am butting in, but I know not to do it. And
deserving it isn't what's happening. We're trying to encourage you. Yeah, we're not having a dig.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know, mate. Yeah. Listen, I appreciate your patience, honestly, and sorry for everyone that's complaining about me putting in because it's, you know, just as I said, I'm enjoying the conversation. I just said it's a bit more new. I don't usually come in here. You guys do this quite routinely, so you've all kind of learned where and when and not to talk, and I'm not really used to it with this forum. Obviously, the other forum, I can just talk whenever.
It's all right, Tommy.
Come on, Tommy, then. Let's give it a go. Give it a go.
Well, before we do, just Tommy, you're no different to the first of this breed was Arwen. You know, the amount of people in the comment section that would tell me to ban Arwen, don't let Arwen in, Arwen's blah, 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 blah. No. They just didn't recognise the genius of Arwen. Now, that is true for almost every panel member. But you're not actually a panel member, Tommy. Just want to point that out. You're just in the peanut gallery. just wanted to point that out. However, you know, there's a certain recognition that if you're not picking up what everyone in the panel's putting down, is that we like you and you've got good points to make, but there's a certain etiquette that you haven't quite got yet. That's all it is, and we're encouraging you to get it. So while we might seem harsh, don't take it the wrong way.
I know I deserve it, mate. It's not even like you're being harsh. When I get a bollocking, it's like when I was a kid. My dad was very harsh anyway. My dad was like proper brutal. So like I learned lessons, but if I didn't listen, I'd feel it. Do you know what I mean? So. I've learnt hard. I'm tough-skinned anyway. It's kind of the only way I listen, really. So that's why I say I appreciate the way you are with people. And even though sometimes you turn in on me and you're going, oh, fucking hell. But the thing is, I'm putting in all the time. Like you said, I know I'm doing it. It's not like something I know I'm not doing wrong. I'm like, fucking hell, yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm getting carried away with the conversation.
No, that's fair enough. But likewise...
You know what? Sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, you know what it is, and a lot of people find this difficult to get used to. I found it difficult at first. Nathan, you actually got angry with me a few times. Is that when you're if we were all standing in a room together, drinking cups of coffee, we'd be able to have conversations where we're talking over each other all over the place because we have body language, right? And we'd be able to understand each other without having to give it a thought. But we don't have body language here. So, and it's a show, so there has to be just one person speak at a time. Just one person speak at a time. Yeah, and when that person's finished, you talk, or if you talk over someone, you stop and leave them talk, that kind of thing. So you have to listen to who's talking and what's going on and what the topic is. You know, whereas in normal life, you don't have to do that. So that's what it is. It's a different.
I feel like
it's
I
a
do
different
that.
type
I feel
of
like I'm on topic
conversation
though, because I
style.
mean, when you were talking about the quantum physics, I mean, I kind of abbreviate on what the topic is. I try to keep it. I kind of keep it back to the. I'd like to keep it on topic, to be honest, because the nitty and gritty is where it's all at. But I guess it's just the wrong time to interject when people are halfway through their
Exactly.
statement.
That's it. That's all it is.
So you got to give him props for continuing to drag this out. This is comical.
I know.
Sorry, man.
It's okay. Yeah, it's not the first time.
You
It
mean
won't
as
be
he's
last.
learning, just keep interrupting? That's pretty good. As Brian was telling him, there goes Tommy. Yeah. See, I learned it.
No, you haven't.
Even though Nathan thinks I haven't, I have.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
We all do it, right? We all do it, but generally speaking, on the show, it's kept to about 10 to 20%, and that's tolerable to an audience. But with Tommy on the panel, it leaps up to about 50%, and it's really noticeable. And to all the people in the comment section, recognise Arwen was the same, Neil's been the same, still is to a certain extent in terms of the commenters, right?
Listen, we all do it. We all do it. But here's the deal. This is a show, and Nathan's trying to produce a show to where the audience, when they get the end product, isn't confused. So he's got to have some control as, who talks, and then a pause, and that's hard when everyone's excited about the things that are being discussed here. So it's just like I wanted to get in a few things, and I kept clicking my mic, and Nathan was talking just a few minutes ago, and I thought he was done, and I'd click my mic to talk, and just about the time I was going to talk, he kept going, and then I clicked off. I must have done it 6 times because
that happens to me all the time.
I'm just trying to time him. I'm just
My
trying
bad.
to time him.
That's totally my fault.
Not bad.
I like to make the explanation several times in many instances because, like you say, it's an educational show. And you want to keep the subject on track, and once the point's actually getting made, you want to reiterate the point. You want to tell people what the point's going to be before the point's made. You want to summarise it after you've made the point. You want to make everything nice and clear. And sometimes that takes more time than it should. Now, in terms of what makes a good YouTube video, they describe the complete opposite. Don't repeat yourself. Just make your point once. Keep it concise. And yeah, in an edited video, that's absolutely the case. But when you're on a live show, you don't necessarily know whether the rest of the audience has actually understood the point. They definitely haven't. That's why the pre-show started the way it was. I was watching 24/7 going, these guys, they're winning the points because they've heard each argument point individually and got why it wins for a flat earth rather than a globe earth argument. But they haven't recognised the overriding deception that's happening when the description comes from the bullet or the plane or the projectile, basically. They've got to rein that in. And, as much as we try and make the Coriolis argument as consistent and as concise in terms of the debunking of it, it's still very convoluted. That's going to take a long time. And in my mind, that brings us back onto the kind of controlled release. It's been scrambled eggs for a long time, so unscrambling scrambled eggs is going to take quite a while. And while that's happening, best to keep everybody on the heliocentric paradigm as it fades. That's how I perceive the current situation.
How did you transition to that from my point? That was pretty clever.
This has been going on for a while.
Okay, hang on. Just so I get my point across. When Brian and I come in at the same time, either Brian, mostly because you hear him, he said,
"Oh, stop it."
See, now you see, Nathan proved you haven't learned, Neil. See,
Stop.
it's
You're
obvious.
gonna pat yourselves on the back. Stop it.
See, you're proving Nathan's point. You're almost there. Just hold off a little bit. So Brian said just a few minutes ago, 10th, you go, then I'll go. And this is the thing that it took a little while for all of us. It's like when 2 people come in, one of them has to say, you go, then I'll go. If that doesn't happen, 2 people are talking. And I think that's the way that the fix is good. It's like if you come in, when another person comes in, somebody say, you go, I go, it'll be fine.
This has been going on for a
So
while.
quantum mechanics does fuck up
Hold
Einstein
on.
basically, innit?
Hold on. A guy came on. This is when I was just a listener and suggested that people say over when they're done.
Yeah, stop that.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you don't need to say over when you just see natural politeness from Brian to me when we both came on. Nathan, can you just remind him he hasn't learned yet?
Yeah.
Quantum mechanics.
I have learned because hold on.
I'm in the middle of my statement, Neil.
And I haven't heard.
Guys, stop a second, Neil. Just stop 1 second. This bit right now, I'm in the middle of my statement. Well, I just want to make my point. Well, yeah, but I'm nearly at the end of my point. Yeah, but I will only take 2 seconds with my interjection. That can go on for 3 minutes.
Yeah, but if Neil would just learn and say, okay, you go, then I'll say my piece. But he didn't.
Okay. Neil, you're right. It was very, very rude of 10th Man to interrupt the beginning of your statement, Neil. Go ahead.
You're supposed to hear that.
I've been working, so I haven't been even participating. And then when I go to, I get shut down.
But that's not an excuse. Maybe you should be working and listening. And then all of a sudden, because you haven't been talking, you're going to interrupt people.
No, I am working and listening. I'm just
Don't feel bad. I was gone for a few days. I came back to it.
Can I just point out that the only person that wants to get this conversation back on track at the moment is Tommy? Can I just point that out?
Exactly my point. So quantum mechanics versus Einstein is a completely it's a complete shut out for heliocentrism, and I find that a fascinating point because since I've come across the information on the internet about when I was learning about quantum mechanics, I go quantum mechanics and it doesn't fit with Einstein, but we're still working on it. Basically, it's like accepted even though it contradicts it. It's like and that's been already subconsciously programmed in me when I was a global looking into quantum mechanics. I remember watching them videos. So I watched all my stuff that I've learned, and I've got a diploma and stuff. I do know quite a lot of information. I've got like a decent education, and as I've looked into this stuff my whole life, I've been fascinated about it my whole life since I was a kid. I used to read all the science books. I used to believe there's a globe, So, I'm in a bit of a desperate pursuit really to get a definite answer, and I think I've lost kind of my point now.
I think your point was that it contradicts Einstein.
Shut up for that.
That's all right.
No, so the stuff that contradicts what they're saying about the gravity and stuff, like that's smack in your face. That's them already planting the seed, and subconsciously letting you know that even though there's something out there that contradicts Einstein's fear of gravity, the displacement of mass causing bending and warping of space, time causing a downward vector, such as gravity holding on fucking oceans and causing all sorts of things like the moon going away, getting reflected on some sort of upwards of mechanics sort of fucking violation of another second law of thermodynamics with no free sandwiches element thing. But there's so much stuff that's going on when you understand it all that the globe is doing a lot of stuff, man. It's doing too much, man. It's doing a lot of stuff that it's not making sense when you put it all together.
What globe?
Well, yeah, what globe? Just out of interest, who thinks this paradigm will be around in 50 years? Globe, heliocentrism.
Mate, it probably would. I wouldn't underestimate the stupidity of the general public. There's so many idiots out there, Nath. There's too many.
Yeah, that's fair
We're
point.
swarming with zombies.
No, that's a fair
They're
point.
all zombies, mate.
Normies.
You don't need quantum mechanics,
man.
Say again, quantum eraser?
Yeah, you don't need quantum mechanics to destroy Einstein. All you need is incoherent third grader. All of it, both special and general relativity, are reification fallacies on nuclear steroids.
No, I totally agree, but what I'm saying is, even if you consider consensus science, the mainstream has quantum mechanics in it. It's not like this is being hidden, and it is debunking the heliocentric rhetoric, and that's sort of commonly understood amongst quote-unquote scientists, right? So what we're suggesting by that is that there can't be anything other than a controlled demolition of heliocentrism because it's failed from the top already.
Why does it have to be controlled, Nathan?
Why does it have to be controlled? Because I think the normie idiots that being described a second ago by Tommy would go slightly bonkers, and possibly chaos would descend if people were just told on the TV tomorrow that Earth was flat and they'd been lied to about space.
No, I don't mean that. I don't think they could make that jump. But let's go back to what you said.
They'd lose so much trust in their normal paradigm. I think it would crush them because they've got so much faith in they've been in space and everything's been told the way that they've been taught. And to learn that actually they've been all lied to would send them into a kind of a craze. So it's like probably it's more protective of them to keep the faith going. And it's a bit like I've heard that people creationists have said that about religious people. They're guilty of that, but really there's another projection of their own sort of. They can't stand the being disregarded by people. Myself, I've got very thick skin, as you know. I can handle being casted aside. I mean, I suffered racism when I was a kid. I was referred to as the darkie out of the lot from one of my older friends.
Tommy, get back to my point that you interrupted. I mean, you see, I paused to let you go. Now you're going about dark skin and racism. I mean, come on.
I'm just saying that just being outcasted is quite.
Tommy, that was a clue.
Used to, so most people don't leave the globe because they're scared of being outcasted. Because that's what Globers do. They
ban the son of a bitch.
No, just chill. Thank you, Tommy.
No.
The point that you went wrong was when you launched into your history, your childhood, how you suffered bullying for being black. That was where you went wrong, right? We didn't need that bit. Up until then, it was okay.
Yeah. But basically,
he did go point.
Globers don't want to be ostracized, don't want to be casted out.
Tommy.
But then
Tommy,
you gotta chill.
It's already gone too far. Maybe add more.
Jeez, man.
Well, as an Italian,
there's a famous Eminem lyric.
Oh God, audio chaos! It's hurting my ears.
There was a sign that said "No dogs and no Italians."
one loved me because I was Irish.
And when I was a kid.
No, don't make light of this, right? I was also bullied for being black.
Listen, there's a famous Eminem lyric, Nathan. It's called "My only reaction is an overreaction, which only sets off a chain reaction." It's supposed to fit me perfectly. Like, my only reaction is an overreaction, which sets off a chain.
Tommy, we're still waiting for the point that you interrupted from 10th to actually get concluded. It's been 3 minutes.
Maybe I can reach out to Tommy in this way. Ding, ding, ding.
Okay, then.
Quick, somebody get his gum shield out. Give him a water. Shove the hose in his mouth.
Yeah. Go to your corner, Tommy. Just for a second.
I'm in stitches. My stomach hurts. I'm laughing so hard.
Right, go ahead. You can get the last word, 10th.
Okay, I'm gonna try this. I don't know if I can compose my ding, ding, ding. I love it. All right, that's excellent. All right, so you're saying controlled release, and I'm saying one lie to cover another lie. So if they've lied from the beginning, then of course, as more information comes out, like let's say DNA from Watson and Crick, and you say there's intelligence, there's a code, there's a language, and so this can't just come from scratch. Okay, now they're going to say something else. I just posted an article. Now they say, oh, okay, forget God, but it's aliens that created us in a petri dish called the universe, and we're lab rats in a sense, like that Harvard professor. Okay, so they're just getting lie after lie after lie because the initial lie is falling apart. Now you're looking at it as a controlled release from the powers to be, whoever they are, the psychopaths that run the world. And I look at it a bit different, similar but not the same, is that the whole lie is coming apart. And God is sovereign, the creator is sovereign. And so his plan is going to happen anyway. And we're just seeing the lie fall apart with more lies. And it's not as if a controlled release. It's more of a, what do we say now? Because they just found out that lie was covering that other lie. So they keep lying. And eventually it's going to end up with the truth coming out.
So it's, instead of a controlled release, you're saying it's the deck of cards falling down, basically.
Yeah, I guess so. I just see the creator as sovereign, and as a sovereign creator, at least from my biblical viewpoint, is that Satan is falling apart with his plans to deceive mankind, and God's allowing it.
With that, I'm going to say another massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!